2.5 Men, Reincarnated as Jake Harper. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76, The Apology. Sam didn't show up to first period. Carly noticed right away. She kept glancing at the empty seat, then at the door, then over at me. Her fingers tapped nervously on the edge of her notebook, like she wanted to ask but didn't know how. I sat still, eyes forward, pretending not to notice. Then, during second period, Sam showed up. She walked in quietly, not saying anything, her steps slower than usual. Her eyes were a little red, like she had cried. Everyone glanced her way but didn't say much. Even the teacher only gave her a nod and gestured toward her seat. I watched her for a second. She didn't look at me. Not once. Just a moment later, the teacher from first period stepped out of the classroom. The usual second period teacher, the idiot who tried to help Freddie, didn't show up. Instead, Principal Flankin walked in. He began, "Your teacher had a little inconvenience," I said with sarcasm. Didn't know being fired was considered a little inconvenience nowadays. One Principal Franklin turned his head slowly and looked at me. I looked right back at him. Neither of us smiled. No tension, no challenge, just two people locking eyes with complete neutrality. Then a knock came at the door. A teacher peeked in, holding a sealed envelope. "For you, Principal Franklin," she said politely, handing it over. He took the letter without a word, nodded, and opened it slowly while still standing at the front of the classroom. His eyes scanned the contents in silence. I leaned back slightly and muttered just loud enough, "Seems like the deputy superintendent agrees that incompetence deserves a firing." No one laughed, but I saw a few exchanged glances. Franklin kept reading, expression unreadable. Then he folded the letter and tucked it into his jacket. "A substitute teacher will be announced shortly," he said in his usual even tone. "For now, use this time to work on your homework." Without another word, he turned and left the room, the door clicking shut behind him. The moment the door closed, the room erupted. Some kids started clapping, others whistled. A couple of guys in the back stood up and high-fived. Even Carly let out a laugh, though she tried to cover it quickly. Freddie cracked a smile for the first time all day. I didn't join in. I just leaned back in my chair and watched them celebrate like we'd all won something. One Mr. Devlin, a man who somehow made every class feel like a punishment. The guy deducted points if your paper was 3-hole punched. Carly got a B+ because of that. He literally called students idiot, awful, bad, and terrible when handing back assignments. Once, when half the class said they couldn't keep up, he simply shrugged and said, "I will not slow down." He had many complaints. I don't know how he didn't get kicked before, nor do I care. I had enough. Then one of the guys in the back raised his arms and shouted, "To our prince," clearly referring to me. I clenched my teeth and thought, "Prince? Kinda cringe." I'm not some Xiao Zhou Manga McTwo. After class, Sam found Freddie in the hallway. She didn't wait until they were alone. In front of everyone, she looked at him straight on and said, "I told you guys that Freddie never kissed anyone. And that was really personal and I shouldn't have said it. And for all you people out there who've teased Freddie about it, lay off, 'cause I bet a whole lot of you haven't kissed anyone either, including me." "Yeah, that's right. I've never kissed anyone. So, if you want to tease someone about it, tease me, which is a bad idea unless you live near a hospital, so I'm sorry, Freddie." It was honest. It was bold. And for a second, everything went quiet. Freddie blinked, clearly caught off guard, but nodded. "Okay," he said. "We're good." They weren't suddenly best friends, but it felt like something had been repaired. As I turned toward my locker, Carly came up beside me with a smile. "Thank you," she said. She said, still smiling, but with a small shrug. Then she added quietly, "I wish I could be that reliable too." I gently patted her head. "You will be with time." Carly gave me a deadpan look. "You sound older than Spencer." "That's because he sounds like an 11-year-old, too." We both laughed. In a hidden spot behind the school building, I found Cher waiting. "Thank you for your help," I said. She crossed her arms and tilted her head. "I didn't like him either. Can you believe he called me an idiot one time?" I raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, I can. That sounds like him." Cher rolled her eyes, clearly still annoyed by it. But she smiled a little, too. Then she added, But I didn't know you were this kind of person. What would you have done if it wasn't your friend Sam? If it was just some random girl humiliating your friend? I shrugged and said, who knows? I smirked. So I just need to pay with kisses, Cher snorted. That would be more like a reward for you. I didn't say anything. I just sat down next to her and kissed her. Then I pulled back slightly, grinning. Are you sure about that? Cher playfully slapped my shoulder. Just kiss me, you idiot. So I did. As we were kissing, two familiar voices came from nearby. I stopped and turned. Cher, a little annoyed that the kiss was interrupted, turned her head as well to see who it was. I quickly reached over, gently covering her mouth with my hand, and brought a finger to my lips. SHH. Sam and Freddie, yeah, I whispered. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 77, The Kiss. So, what do you want to talk about? Freddie asked. I'm sorry again about telling people you never kissed anyone, and about putting blue cheese dressing in your shampoo bottle, and about sending your cell phone to Cambodia, Sam said in one breath. So this means you're not gonna mess with me anymore? Freddie asked cautiously. No, I'm still gonna mess with you, Sam admitted. I'm just gonna apologize every few years so I can start fresh again. Good, Freddie said. Good, yeah, it's so dumb, Sam muttered. What do you mean? You know, how people get all freaked out over their first kiss. Stupid, so you weren't lying? You've really never kissed anyone? Freddie asked. Nope, Sam replied. Sometimes I just wish I could get it out of the way, she continued. Yeah, you know, me too, Freddie said. Right? You know, just so I can stop worrying about it. Yeah, what? Sam asked, noticing his hesitation. Nothing. Tell me, Sam insisted. No, it's dumb, say it, okay. I was just gonna say, that we should kiss, Sam finished for him. You're gonna break my arm now, right? Freddie asked. No, well, should we? Just so both of us can get it over with, Sam considered. Just to get it over with, Freddie repeated. Just to get it over with, she agreed. And you swear we both go right back to hating each other as soon as it's over? Oh, totally, and we never tell anyone, never. Well, when, then, Freddie kissed Sam. A normal kiss well, that was, Freddie began. Nice, Sam offered. Yeah, nice, good work, thank you, you too. Hey, I hate you, Freddie said. Hate you too, Sam replied. Then, without another word, they each turned and walked off in opposite directions. I turned to Cher. They are so cute together, she said too, right? I replied, smiling. Then I added, don't tell anyone about this, alright? Cher smirked and nodded. Their secret's safe with me, I grinned. Let's pick up where we left off. Gladly, she said, and we both smiled. The next day, the quartet was back together again. Sam and Freddie were bickering again, but Carly was smiling at it. After school, we all gathered at Carly's house. As we sat on the couch, Carly suddenly asked, Sam, you've seriously never kissed anyone? Freddie choked, but both girls ignored him. You're shocked, Sam said. Well, yeah, Carly replied, raising her eyebrows, but just because you always seemed so willing. Sam rolled her eyes, but there was a trace of a smile on her lips. I glanced at Carly and thought, oh man, I really want to tell her, but I shouldn't. Then Carly turned to me. What about you? Me neither. Never kissed, I said without even blinking. The three of them stared at me for a second. Then, all at once, they grabbed the couch pillows and started throwing them at me. Hey. I'm just being completely honest, I laughed, shielding myself. After some laughs, I looked at Carly and asked, what exactly were you trying to find out, Carly? Who was your first kiss? She said with a grin. Because we know about Amy, Regina, Cher, Sam added, counting on her fingers. One. Okay, I said quickly, holding up my hands to stop her. Then I added with a crooked smile, her name was Rory Gilmore. That got them all to stop for a beat. Sam raised an eyebrow, Carly blinked, and Freddie looked completely confused. Never heard of her, Sam finally said. I'd be really surprised if you had, I replied. I met her on a trip to New York City. They just kept staring at me, waiting for more. Then Carly leaned forward and said, "Oh come on, now you need to tell us more." "Well," I began, leaning back a little with a smile, "she's a pretty brunette, with stunning blue eyes. One of those proper good girl types." I paused for effect. She kind of ignored me at first, then I smirked, tossing a pillow up and catching it casually. "But Jake's charm is unstoppable," I said with my most pompous attitude. The three of them exchanged looks, then nodded in silent agreement. Each grabbed a pillow, and in perfect coordination, they launched them at me. "Let's kick this smug bastard ass," Sam shouted with a grin. After the shenanigans, and a good round of laughter, we were all sprawled out on the floor. Well, Sam and I were sitting. Carly and Freddie were lying flat on their backs, clearly wiped out. After a while, Carly sat up and looked at me. "Now finish your story," she said. So, I won her over with a beautiful song. And then, I puckered my lips and made exaggerated kissing noises. Without missing a beat, Sam grabbed a nearby pillow and smacked me in the face again. "Serves you right," Carly muttered, trying not to laugh. "Hey, sing us the song," Sam said. "Nat, I need a piano." "You play piano?" Sam asked, astonished. I replied deadpan, "That's my best instrument. Spencer has a guitar," Carly said, already jumping to her feet and running off to get it. Moments later, she returned and handed it to me. I tuned it roughly and looked at them. I still prefer the piano version, but here we go. Then I began to play and sing Shallow, letting the acoustic melody fill the room. Carly and Sam looked at each other. Carly said, "Well, I see how it could have happened." Freddie, oblivious to the girls' reactions, asked, "Have you ever thought about becoming a professional singer, Jake?" "Yes," I said with a nod, setting the guitar down gently. "And that is something I want to talk about. I made an auxiliary debut days ago. If you have any doubts about someone, leave a comment there. I plan to update it from time to time. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjunior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 78, Big Plans. "Yes," I said with a nod. "And that's actually something I want to talk about." That caught everyone's attention. "Wait, for real?" Sam asked, eyes narrowing slightly. "Like, seriously?" Carly added, shifting closer. "Yes, I've been thinking a lot about it," I continued. "Not just as a hobby, but as professional. But I don't want to get too famous before I'm of legal age." Freddie sat up straighter. "Dude, I think that's awesome. You definitely have the voice for it, but I'm thinking about using a mask and already starting to release some songs." I added 8 like Batman. Freddie blurted out one. We all gave him a deadpan look. "Idiot," Sam said. Later that night, I found myself in the kitchen with Uncle Charlie and Dad. They were casually sipping their coffee while flipping through some old newspaper on the counter. "So," I began, leaning against the fridge, "I was talking to my friends earlier about something important." Charlie looked up, mildly interested. "You didn't knock up someone, did you?" Alan gave Charlie a disapproving look. "Funny," I said dryly. "No, I've been thinking about launching some music. Recording and releasing stuff." Dad raised an eyebrow. "Really?" Charlie spoke again, more seriously this time. "You do have the talent for it." "Thank you, Uncle Charlie," I said. "And you, Uncle Charlie? Are you sure you don't want some of my songs? You can be famous." "Now, I'm good. I don't really like to sing for public." I nodded. We had already talked about it. Then I continued, "But I don't want to be famous before I'm of legal age. So I'm thinking about using some disguises. And the songs I have in mind, some of them won't even be sung by me." "What kind of disguise?" Dad asked, curious now. Looking over at Charlie, who was holding a bag of marshmallows and munching on one, I smirked. "Maybe a marshmallow costume." Alan looked at the bag in Charlie's hand and snorted. "You can't be serious." The next day, I was in the office of JD Company, my company name, nothing too creative, just my initials. Pepper stood by the whiteboard, flipping through some of the notes I had left. When I brought up the disguise idea again, she looked up and said, "You can't be serious." "I am. I don't want to be famous too soon, not that idea." "The marshmallow one," she said seriously. "I saw my uncle eating it, and I thought why not," I said, explaining the idea. "Jake," Pepper said deadpan, looking me straight in the eye. "That fluffy white candy seems like a good idea," I said straight to her. Jake, Pepper repeated again, not buying any of my shit. We looked at each other for a moment. Pepper stared at me, thoroughly unamused. Okay, I ruffled. I might have bought a bag of marshmallows and waited for the exact moment to bring it up. 1. With my experience, Uncle Charlie usually steals my snacks the same day, or the day after. Pepper remained serious. Oh, come on. Imagine if I become a famous singer. When they ask me about it, I'd say it all started by watching my uncle eat candy. That would be hilarious. Pepper clacked a smile inside with a soft laugh. What should I do with you? Then, after a moment, she added, all right, pass me your idea. I know you don't do half-assed ideas, so I told her the idea, a mask shaped like a marshmallow, but with a twist, sharp teeth for eyes and a wide, mischievous smile across the face. LED lights would be embedded in the design, changing colors and pulsing with the rhythm of the music. 3. I even made a sketch of the mask. And the name was Marshmallow, without the W at the end. Incredible enough, not a bad idea, said Pepper, looking at the sketch. But we need to see it for real. Then after a moment, she continued, I know you have more than 100 songs in your name. Yeah, I replied, then thought to myself, I stole it all. And I'm still remembering the rest. For what kind of songs are you planning to release? Pepper asked. Electronic. These are the first 5 songs, so I said the 4 songs' names. I paused a moment, then added, and Friendzone. I thought to myself, since I already have a song called Friends, I'll change the original Marshmallow title to Friendzone. Might as well be the one to create a concept, since the TV show Friends doesn't exist here, and the movie Just Friends hasn't been released. To honor our brave soldiers lost to life. 2. On my way back home, I grabbed a cab. When I arrived and stepped into the garage, I saw my dad sitting in the driver's seat of his car, with Rose in the passenger seat. I froze at the entrance and blinked. Yet, I don't want to know what weird thing happens here. I entered through the kitchen and passed by the living room. That's when I saw Uncle Charlie with a few friends, 4 people in total. 2 were sitting on the couch, 1 in the armchair, and the oldest one was comfortably settled in the recliner. They were all sipping whiskey and puffing on cigars. Charlie looked up, spotted me, and grinned wide. Hey, this is my nephew I'm always talking about, he said proudly, raising his glass as he motioned toward me. I greeted them politely, shaking hands and offering a nod to each of them. I stayed for a few minutes, making small talk, answering some questions, and smiling through a few light jokes. After a while, I excused myself and headed to my room. I was more tired than I realized. I made an auxiliary W days ago. If you have any doubts about someone, leave a comment there. I plan to update it from time to time. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 79, Josh. Dad and I were gathered around the breakfast table. The morning sun streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow on the kitchen. Plates clinked and soft chatter filled the air. Alan had gone out of his way to order all of my favorite breakfast items, fluffy pancakes, crispy bacon, fresh fruit, scrambled eggs, and a basket of buttery croissants. I sat down and raised an eyebrow, looking at the spread. You did all this? I asked Dad. He shrugged, trying to play it cool. Figured you deserved it. Before anyone could respond, Uncle Charlie strolled in with his usual swagger. Morning, everybody, he said, grinning as he stepped into the kitchen. Without missing a beat, Dad gestured to a second tray he had waiting by the counter. And here's your favorite, Charlie, extra crispy bacon, sausage links, and that cinnamon French toast you like. Charlie blinked, clearly surprised. I looked at him, and he looked back at me. We both exchanged glances. Okay, Alan, what do you want? Charlie asked, narrowing his eyes. Nothing, Dad said, a little awkward, before quickly changing the subject. He turned to me. Jake, your friend Josh might come by today. Josh? Who's Josh? I asked, genuinely confused. One your friend from your last school, Dad said, sounding a little incredulous. I looked at Charlie, who raised his hands in mock defense. Don't look at me, he said. I barely remember my girls' names. Alan let out a frustrated sigh. Josh, the one who came here last year. I still stared at him, clueless. Alan huffed. The one that drew Cindy's ass. Charlie and I both shouted at the same time. Ow! That boy! One Alan threw up his hands. You two are unbelievable. I narrowed my eyes a bit and tilted my head. Why is Josh coming here? Are you trying to get with his mom? I asked Dad. Dad looked a little guilty. There it is, Uncle Charlie said, pointing with his fork like he'd just won a bet. She got divorced, Dad mumbled. Then, looking at us with pleading eyes, he added, can you two help me this time? I looked into Dad's eyes. After a moment, I nodded. Okay, lately, with all the time spent hanging out with Carly, Sam, Freddie, and sometimes Regina and Cher, it had been a while since I played video games. Might not be bad. I even had some new games I hadn't opened yet. Wait, the two of us, said Charlie. Can you get Josh from school? Asked Alan. Charlie narrowed his eyes but sighed and nodded. Okay, I'll help. That night, Josh and I were in the living room, mainly because of the big TV. Pillows and blankets were scattered across the couch. We were playing Harvest Moon, Back to Nature, a classic. Josh was in charge of farming potatoes, while I took care of farming hearts. We took turns 3 at some point. I must have fallen asleep. Josh, however, was still completely engaged, milking cows and feeding chickens. Suddenly, a loud gasp echoed through the room. What happened? I asked, startled awake. When I looked toward the source of the sound, I saw Josh frozen, pointing at a woman standing there half naked, wearing only a long t-shirt. So, I asked, walking over to him. She's Ms. Pasternak. My teacher, he said, still in shock. 1-0. Hi, I said, raising a hand casually, completely ignoring how awkward the moment was. 1 hi, she replied, equally awkward. I would have asked what she was doing here, but that would have been a dumb question. I already knew who she was doing. And right on cue, the answer walked in. Hey, guys, said Charlie with a wide grin. I just shook my head. Come on, Josh, we're sleeping in my room, he tried to whisper to me, but it came out loud enough for everyone to hear. I saw my teacher's ass, too. I just held back a laugh. The next day, Josh had already gone home. I was having lunch with Uncle Charlie and Dad. It was one of those rare afternoons without school. Josh texted me. He's forbidden from coming here again. I don't know whose fault it is, I said, staring at Charlie, then at the black eye Alan was sporting. Oh, Josh texted me again, I added, laughing. He said I became even more of a legend in my old school, and there's more. Word is going around that I live in ass paradise. Well, he did see it during the 2 days he was here. 100%, too. Uncle Charlie burst out laughing. Dad just scoffed. Then the doorbell rang. I went to answer it. It was a package for me. I opened it, and inside was a Marshmallow Helmet 3. When I put it on, I was surprised by how light it was. The inside was spacious, and the view was pretty clear, thanks to the large teeth-shaped eye holes. There was also a remote inside the box. I pressed the button and the helmet started blinking. It was hard to notice the full effect from inside the mask, but once I took it off, I could clearly see the LED lights glowing all around it. Excited, I went to show it to Charlie and Alan in the kitchen. Look, pretty cool, huh? I said. Not that bad, said Charlie. Alan nodded. Then I turned to Alan, lowered my voice, and said, Alan, I'm your father. In my best Darth Vader impression, for the helmet actually had a voice changer feature, and one of the modes mimicked Darth Vader's voice. Looks like Pepper had a sense of humor after all. I made an auxiliary W days ago. If you have any doubts about someone, leave a comment there. I plan to update it from time to time. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 80, Songs. I was sitting at the usual corner table of the school cafeteria with Carly, Sam, and Freddie. The lunch rush was just starting to peak, and trays clattered all around us as students shuffled through the lines. A few minutes later, Regina and Cher approached with their trays. Regina sat down right next to me. Cher slid into the seat across from her. Hey, everyone, Cher said with a friendly nod. Hey, we all responded almost in unison. The table filled up quickly, but it didn't feel crowded. Just comfortable. Regina bumped my shoulder lightly. You better not steal any of my fries, no promises, I said with a smirk. Cher poked at her salad with a fork, already jumping into the conversation like she'd been there from the beginning. Regina looked around the table with a satisfied grin. This is officially the most popular table in the 9th grade. I just rolled my eyes. I like being popular, but for Regina, it was more than that. It was like some school life goal. Sam smirked and leaned back. How come Freddie isn't here? Shut up, Sam, Freddie shot back, not even looking up from his tray. Cher watched the exchange with amusement and gave me a small smile, one of those subtle, knowing ones. It lingered for a second, and I knew exactly what she was thinking about. The kiss. I cleared my throat and changed the subject. Hey guys, my helmet's done. And Pepper already set up the recording studio and found the singers. That got everyone's attention. Regina leaned in, eyes narrowing slightly. I understand that you don't want to be famous for now. But I can't believe you're not even gonna sing. I will in the future, I said, then looked around the table. So, do you wanna come? Everyone nodded or said yes almost at the same time. Of course, definitely, wouldn't miss it. The plan was set. Later that afternoon, we arrived at the studio Pepper had arranged. The place was sleek and modern, with soundproof rooms, high-end equipment, and a quiet, focused energy that made everything feel cozy. 2 young women stood in front of the recording booth, each with headphones on, eyes closed as they practiced. I hadn't met them before. First came Alone, Alan Walker. Soft, haunting, and full of feeling. The singer hit every note with effortless grace. Then came Faded, Alan Walker 3. They weren't famous. But they were good. Really good. As I stood there listening, I thought to myself, they do justice to the originals too. After the first run-through, I stepped inside the booth. I was already wearing marshmallow costume, the helmet and all white clothes. I gave a few notes, adjusted the rhythm slightly, and explained how I wanted the build-up and drops to feel. The girls listened carefully, nodded, and went again. This time, it was perfect. Then I turned to Pepper, gave a small nod, and said, we're ready to show it. Outside the booth, Carly, Sam, Freddie, Regina, Cher, and Pepper were gathered, all watching expectantly. The lights dimmed slightly in the control room. A quiet hush fell over everyone. And then, the music started. A soft piano melody flowed through the speakers, gentle and melodic. One of the girls began to sing, You were the shadow to my light, did you feel us? Another star, You fade away, afraid our aim is out of sight, wanna see us alive. As the verse ended, the sound began to shift. A subtle beat emerged beneath the vocals, growing stronger. The piano faded into the background as layers of synths built up. Where are you now? Where are you now? Where are you now? Was it all in my fantasy? Where are you now? Were you only imaginary? While the music picked up its rhythm, something happened. The lights in the control room where Pepper and the others stood began to change colors. Soft blues, purples, and pinks cycled slowly at first, like pulses in sync with the beat. And then, as the chorus hit, the lights intensified. Brighter flashes of neon lit up the space, casting dancing glows on their faces, like they were suddenly in the middle of a club. No one said a word. I'm faded so lost, I'm faded so lost, I'm faded. This wasn't just a track. This was an experience. The track faded out, no pun intended, and before anyone could react, the second song began. Alone, just like the first, it began with a soft intro, breathy vocals. As the song progressed, the beat took over and the light show resumed, syncing with the rhythm and growing more intense as the chorus approached. Anywhere, whenever, apart but still together. I know I'm not alone, I know I'm not alone, I know I'm not alone, I know I'm not alone. Another perfect performance. As the final notes played, I stepped out of the recording booth and walked toward them, the helmet still on. So, I asked with a grin in my voice, what do you think? That was so cool, said Cher. I totally can see these songs in parties, Regina added, a bright smile on her face. Sam, Carly, and Freddie chimed in too, all full of praise and excitement. I stepped closer to Pepper and inclined my head. Can you stop looking like you just saw a golden goose? You look like you want to rip the golden egg out by hand. Pepper rolled her eyes and gave me a sharp pinch on the arm. Ow. Okay, I laughed. I get it. Pepper crossed her arms and said, if the other 3 songs are even a fraction as good as these 2, you'd already have one hell of a debut. Then she added thoughtfully, I think we could spend a little more and bring in someone really famous to sing one of them, too. I nodded. Yeah, I want that. Let's release these 5, then we do that. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh junior, up to 35+ advanced chapters, Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 81, New Girl. The new recording session. This time, it was the turn of the third song, Happier, one. I stood inside the booth, fully dressed as Marshmallow. The guest singer was Richard. He wasn't famous, but he walked into the booth with quiet confidence. I stood nearby, nodding to the beat, occasionally adjusting a setting or giving subtle hand signals to guide the vibe. The track began, and as soon as Richard started singing, everyone in the control room leaned in a little closer. Lately, I've been thinking I want you to be happier, I want you to be happier. Richard's voice was warm and raw, perfectly matching the mood of the lyrics. Cher spoke up, her voice soft. He's really good, Sam nodded slowly. Yet, one after the end of the song, I stepped out of the booth, still wearing the Marshmallow helmet. So, I asked the same question, my voice slightly muffled but still teasing, what did you think? Carly lit up immediately. Oh my god, that was incredible. I want to hear it again, right now. One. Cher nodded enthusiastically. Regina crossed her arms with a small smirk. The song's fantastic, but I still think it would have been even better if you had sung it. I walked over and playfully pinched Regina's cheeks. When did you become a bootlick? Regina rolled her eyes but didn't hide the smile creeping onto her face. Cher looked at me, half serious, half pouting. How come I'm the only one that didn't hear you sing? Oh, yet. You didn't come to my end-of-year party last year, I said with a grin. I was in Paris, Cher replied, like she'd just been wronged for. Everyone looked at her deadpan. I can't feel any pity, rich girl, said Sam. Even Carly, though she didn't say anything, looked like she totally agreed. Cher turned to me with a raised eyebrow and a smile. Jake, we're literally in a recording studio. You could sing now. The others looked at me, nodding in agreement. After all, Richard was the last one scheduled to sing today. The remaining 2 tracks were set for tomorrow. Pepper checked her watch and shrugged. We've still got about 30 minutes left in the studio, and I could extend it if needed. It seemed like everyone wanted me to sing. The way they were all looking at me made it hard to say no. I sighed, then smirked beneath the helmet and looked at Cher. Coincidentally, I said, I have a song called Paris. One. I reached up, unlatched the helmet, and pulled it off. Then, without saying anything else, I walked back into the booth and took my place at the mic. I quickly adjusted a few beats on the control panel. The original version of the song needed more prep than I had time for, so I decided to go with something more improvised. I closed my eyes, took a breath, and began to sing Paris, Chainsmoker. We were staying in Paris to get away from your parents, and I thought, wow, if I could take this in a shot right now. I don't think that we could work this out on the terrace. I don't know if it's fair, but I thought, how could I let you fall by yourself while I'm wasted with someone else? Cher blinked, clearly impressed. Wow, I had heard he was good, she said, glancing toward Regina. I thought you were exaggerating a bit. Yes, that mouth, he really knows what he's doing, said Regina with a teasing smile. They both giggled. Sam and Freddie exchanged a weird look. Carly murmured, is he really that good kissing? They both turned to her. What? I'm just curious, she added quickly, trying to play it off. When I stepped out of the booth again after the song, rubbing the back of my neck with a smile. The next day, we were back at the cafeteria, me, Regina, Sam, Freddie, and Carly. The noise of lunchtime filled the room like every other day. I took a sip of my juice and looked around the group. So, I said casually, today we're finishing the last 2 songs. That'll complete the first 5. I looked around. You guys coming again today? They all answered with a mix of nods and quick yeses. Would miss it, said Regina. You better believe it, Sam added. One. Freddie raised his hand like he was signing a contract. Carly just smiled and nodded. That's when Cher showed up at the table, with a stunning blonde girl walking beside her. I barely caught myself murmuring a quiet wow before I looked down at my tray, pretending to be focused on my lunch. No one seemed to notice. Cher placed her tray down and gestured to the girl. Laura, this is my friends. One. Everyone took a second to greet her. With a smirk, I extended my hand. Jake Harper, the girl smiled back warmly. Laura Vandervoort, for Voldemort, Freddie blurted out before he could stop himself. Yet, I thought that too, I said with a grin. But I figured it would be a little lame to say it out loud. Oh, the kid's book, Laura said with a slight sigh, apparently used to the comparison. You don't like Harry Potter? I asked, astonished too. In my head, I was thinking about it. Harry Potter was already pretty famous, but it was nowhere near the frenzy it would reach. The first movie hadn't even been released yet. That storm was still coming. Don't tell me you're like Freddie, Jake, Sam jumped in. He camped out just to buy the book that came out last year. Not really, I said, shaking my head. But I did buy the book nonetheless. There was no reason to wait in a huge line for a book I had already read. But I did read it again. You only don't like the book because you can't read anything longer than 2 pages, Freddie shot back. Sam turned to him immediately. Says the guy who cried when Cedric died. And just like that, the two of them were bickering again, picking up their usual rhythm like no time had passed. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82, Studio. Sam and Freddie were still going at it, trading snarky jabs back and forth while the rest of us just watched, mildly amused. Laura leaned toward me and whispered, "Are they together?" Before I could respond, Sam and Freddie both shot back in unison, "No." Their expressions were equally offended, like the very idea had crossed some sacred line. I caught the exchange and chuckled. Honestly, they've been like this since day one. I don't even think they realize it anymore. Sam looked up. "We can hear you, you know, that's the idea," I replied, grinning. I turned back to Laura. "But you should try Harry Potter. It's a nice book, maybe in the future," she said with a smile. "I think I have a little trauma. Some nerds kept calling me Lord Voldemort in 7th grade. And he's the antagonist, isn't he?" she added jokingly. "Yeah, but you're way too pretty to be compared to that no-nose guy," I said with a smirk. Carly and Sam just rolled her eyes. "By the way," I continued, shifting the conversation, "it's kind of rare for someone to transfer now. We're already in February, more than halfway through the school year." "I'm from Toronto, Canada," Laura replied. "I want to be a professional actress, and my father got a job here in LA, so we decided to transfer now, even if it messed with my school year a little." "She already is," Cher cut in with a proud smile. "Laura was telling me she acted in the Goosebumps series." "Seriously?" Carly asked, her eyes lighting up. "I used to love that show." "Which episode?" Freddie added, interested. Laura laughed. "It was one called Deep Trouble. I played the lead sister. It was only a couple of scenes, but it was super fun. I also appeared in a few others, Say Cheese and Die Again and The Haunted Mask II, mostly small parts." "That's really awesome," I said, leaning forward a bit. Laura and I kept chatting for a bit, the conversation relaxed and natural, before she eventually stood up. Then she stood, politely. "Excuse me for a second, I'll be right back," and with that, she headed off toward the restroom. Regina got up and went with her, the two of them disappearing down the hallway. Cher turned to me the moment they were out of sight. "You are unbelievable, Jake." "What?" I said, feigning innocence, raising an eyebrow like I had no idea what she meant. Everyone at the table just stared at me, completely unfazed. "Really?" I looked around, waiting for at least one person to have my back. "I think I need new friends," I added, acting like I'd been personally wronged. And Laura might be the one." I smiled. Cher gave me a light jab in the ribs, shaking her head with a grin. "What's really unbelievable," I added, turning to her, "is you showing her around the school and introducing her to us. When did you become a goody two-shoes girl, Cher?" "What? I've always been a good girl," Cher said like she was stating the obvious. Now she was the one getting the same look I had just gotten. Sensing that Cher didn't want to elaborate, I decided to change the subject. Later that afternoon, we split into 2 cabs on our way to the studio. Carly, Sam, and Freddie went in one. I rode in the other with Regina and Cher. About 5 minutes into the ride, I leaned a little closer to Cher. "So," I asked, my tone casual but curious. She raised an eyebrow. "So what?" "You know what," I said, giving her a look. "The sudden nice girl routine. Helping Laura. Being all welcoming. Your songs are incredible," Cher said simply. "I know you'll make video clips of them." "I want to be in one," I said. "You know I'd let you appear even if you hadn't introduced me." The gorgeous blonde Regina's going to be in one, And she didn't lift a finger. Regina chimed in, I presented myself to you, and Cher. I rolled my eyes and scoffed. You know what I mean. Everyone in the cab burst out laughing, not the driver, though. One Cher leaned back, still grinning. I know, Jake. But I also know you would have met her in no time, I gasped, feigning offense. You said that like I'm some kind of playboy. Both Cher and Regina gave me the exact same deadpan look. I leaned back in my seat, glancing out the window for a moment. Laura obviously hadn't been invited to hear the new songs at the studio. And as stunning as she was, there was no reason to start simping over her, or to even think about revealing the marshmallow secret now. Maybe in the future one. When we arrived at the studio, Pepper, Carly, Sam, and Freddie were already there, chatting and checking some of the equipment. I headed straight to the changing room to get into the marshmallow outfit. The white hoodie, gloves, and, of course, the helmet. It was all part of the persona now. Time to switch modes. A few minutes later, the door opened and our final guest arrived. Sia Kate Isabel stepped into the studio, still not wearing her different style design. At 25, she already had a presence in the music world. Last year, she had signed with Dance Pool, a sub-label of Sony Music, and her debut single, Taken for Granted, had hit number 10 on the UK singles chart 5. So, yeah, she was famous. Not everywhere famous yet. Pepper greeted her first, then motioned to the rest of us. I stepped out of the changing room just in time to see her offering a polite smile as she scanned the space. She still lived in London, but made frequent trips for projects like this. And now, she was here, for our 4th and 5th track. Yeah, I thought, adjusting the hoodie under the helmet, we decided to let her sing the 2 remaining songs. Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mh-junior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 83, The Final Tracks. Sia set her bag down near the vocal booth, taking a quiet moment to look around the studio. There was a calm focus to her movements, like someone who'd done this 100 times but still knew how to appreciate the moment. Pepper handed her the printed lyrics, but Sia was already familiar with them. She glanced at the page briefly and said, yeah, I've gone through it a few times. I actually really liked the first track, Titanium. That was one of the main reasons I said yes to this project. Pepper nodded. Sam leaned toward me and whispered, she's way more chill than I expected a famous singer to be. British charm, I whispered back. 3. I turned to Carly and Freddie. You guys ready to hear the last 2? Carly gave a thumbs up, and Freddie was already lifting his camera. I stood up and walked toward the booth. Sia was adjusting her headphones when I stepped in. She gave me a quick nod, but didn't seem bothered at all that I had the marshmallow helmet on. Ready? I asked. Always, she said with a slight smile. The track began, and she started to sing Titanium. David Guetta, feat. Sia 1. You shout it out. But I can't hear a word you say. I'm talking loud, not saying much. I'm criticized, but all your bullets ricochet. You shoot me down, but I get up. I'm bulletproof, nothing to lose. Fire away, ricochet. You take your aim. Fire away, you shoot me down, but I won't fall. I am titanium. You shoot me down, but I won't fall. I am titanium. Cut me down, but it's you who'd have further to foul. Ghost town, haunted love. Raise your voice, sticks and stones may break my bones. I'm talking loud, not saying much. I'm bulletproof, nothing to lose. Fire away, ricochet. You take your aim. Fire away, you shoot me down, but I won't fall. I am titanium. You shoot me down, but I won't fall. I am titanium. I am titanium. I am titanium. When the final note echoed through the studio, I stepped out of the booth, and giving a small nod to Pepper. So, I asked, glancing at the others. Regina leaned forward, a thoughtful look on her face. It's getting harder and harder to pick a favorite of your songs. The others nodded in agreement. Seriously, Carly said. They're all so different but equally good. Yay, Sam added. I smiled beneath the helmet, then turned back toward the booth. Alright, I said, let's finish this. I stepped back into the booth for the final track. This time, it was Friend Zone, Friends, Marshmallow. Sia adjusted her mic again, and I gave her a nod. The beat kicked a new You say you love me, I say you crazy. We're nothing more than friends. You're not my lover, more like a brother. I've known you since we were like 10. Yeah. As the track played on with its sassy back and forth energy, Freddie let out a soft "What a Sad Song." Everyone turned to look at him weirdly. The song carried on, leading to its sharp, Iconic final. Want me to spell it out for you? Friends. Friends. Ooh, 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 ah, ooh, ooh. When I stepped out of the booth, Sam was already laughing hard. Hey, she said between giggles, you should call it Freddy's Own One. Shut up, Sam. Freddy shot back. I gritted my teeth. Yeah, it kind of brings some resemblance, I said. Man, I didn't sing it because, you know. Freddy raised his hands quickly. That's okay. It's just not my favorite song out of the ones you sang, he added jokingly. Carly was sitting nearby, a small conflicted expression crossing her face. Not long after, everyone started packing up and heading out. Carly, Sam, Freddy, Regina and even Pepper said their goodbyes, leaving the studio one by one. I stayed behind. The recording wasn't over, not really. Sometimes it took hours, even days, to get everything perfect for the final release. By the time we wrapped up the technical cleanup and playback sessions, the sun had dipped low outside. Pepper came back just as everything was finalized. She listened quietly to the mastered version, nodding along. When it ended, she looked at me and gave a satisfied smile. Sia stood near the door, her bag over her shoulder. I really enjoyed this, she said. Let's maybe work on something else in the future. Yeah, I gave her a small wave, still wearing the helmet. I'd like that. She smiled again before heading out into the night. Pepper turned to me after the door closed. I've already lined up a few things, some radio stations and magazines for the launch. We'll be releasing soon, I nodded. You don't have to worry about making the release perfect. After all, I plan on dropping 2 or 3 songs every month. There were so many electronic tracks I remembered, no reason to hold them back. Pepper raised an eyebrow and smiled. I registered a bunch of the songs you gave me. And you had more than 100 before. With this much music under your name, you could release more than a dozen albums. Did you steal some unknown jukebox or something? Now, I'm just really that good, I said without blinking. Pepper just stared at me and said nothing. Then she cleared her throat. Anyway, my Big Fat Greek Wedding is in advanced stages of production. Brockback Mountain will take a bit longer to finish. She gave me a quick glance. Your friend Joey is doing a great job as the lead in my Big Fat Greek Wedding. That's great, I said. I thought back to when I first told Joey about the role, how I told him to give everything he had at the auditions. Like with Paranormal Activity, I wouldn't risk compromising a movie with the potential of my Big Fat Greek Wedding just to hand a part to a friend too. In the future, when I had more money and the studio could afford to take chances on subpar actors, I wouldn't mind as much. Neither would Pepper, probably. She didn't care as long as it wasn't a big budget project. One support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 84, 5-Finger Discount. Later that weekend, I was having dinner at a fancy restaurant in downtown Los Angeles with Dad, Uncle Charlie, and Grandma. Evelyn was studying the menu with that usual air of half-interest. She looked up from the menu and asked casually, "So, Jake, do you see anything you like?" "Venison," I murmured, intrigued. "Uncle Charlie, have you ever eaten a Bambi?" Charlie immediately started choking on his drink, glaring at me. "What?" I said, trying to look innocent. "I mean the venison." Before Charlie could respond, Evelyn casually started placing items from the table into her purse. "Mom, what are you doing?" Alan asked, eyes widening. "Nothing," Evelyn replied without missing a beat. "Oh, that's stealing," Alan said, voice a mix of disbelief and resignation. "Hardly. I'm paying $12 for a martini," Evelyn said, completely unfazed. "They're lucky I don't take a chair." "You're paying?" Charlie asked, eyebrows raised. "Figure of speech, Charles," Evelyn replied with a big smile. I just shook my head. Grandma could be as cheap as Dad sometimes. Taking little things, like hotel soap and shampoo, was hard to understand. We are multimillionaires. And listen who's talking about me with a moral high ground, Mr. 5-Finger Discount, Evelyn added, shooting Alan a look. "What does that mean?" I asked, confused. "It doesn't mean anything," Dad replied quickly, waving me off. "Alan, there's no reason your son can't learn from your mistakes," Evelyn added, casually sipping her drink. "I didn't make a mistake, Mom," Dad said, clearly annoyed. "Unbelievable," Grandma muttered. 25 years later, and he still denies shoplifting. I laughed a little. "I didn't do it, Jake," Dad said quickly. I just laughed at the expression 5-finger discount. I'm totally using that now that I understand the context and I didn't say you did it, Dad. Your mom, on the other hand, it was a misunderstanding, Dad muttered. Alan, please, Evelyn said, unimpressed. Walking around a toy store, with your brother, and the silly puppy just jumped into your pocket. Yes, Dad replied. I glanced over at Uncle Charlie, who suddenly looked way too interested in the menu. Suspicious. But just then, the waiter arrived at our table. Okay, everybody ready to order? I'll have the filet mignon, I said. But can you add a piece of the venison on the side? I want to try it, the waiter nodded. There will be a small additional charge, I simply nodded in return, not bothered. The rest of the table gave their orders, and once the waiter stepped away, Evelyn shifted the conversation entirely. Congratulations, Jake. Soon you'll be one of the most popular singers in the country. I just don't understand why you need to wear that hideous costume, too. I already told you, Grandma. I want some good years in high school. Yeah, the release had been a success. Already spreading fast in just these first days. Not unexpected, though. These were 5 of the biggest hits in electronic music, and the quality was absolutely on par with the originals. Charlie raised his glass. To our star, we all followed, clinking our glasses together with proud smiles. We had already celebrated on release day, but this moment felt just as special. The next morning, I was in the kitchen having breakfast with Dad. He was reading the newspaper, sipping his usual black coffee, while I worked on a plate of eggs and toast. I've tried some fancy breakfast foods from time to time, but there are still some things you eat no matter how rich you are. Scrambled eggs on toast is one of those for me. Charlie walked in a minute later, moving like every step was a punishment. Good morning, he muttered. Morning, I replied. Why are you walking like that? I asked, raising an eyebrow. I spent the night in the bathroom, Charlie grumbled. Dad lowered his paper. Tell Jake what you told me last night, Charlie sighed. Oh, okay. Sure. Jake, your father didn't steal the silly puppy. He paused, then added, I did. I didn't even blink. You're not surprised, Jake? Dad asked, astonished. No, I said, like it was obvious. Uncle Charlie looked way too interested in the menu last night when you guys brought it up, and you said nothing, Dad asked, a little annoyed. We had already changed the subject before I could say anything. And I wasn't going to start accusing someone without knowing the whole story. I took another bite of toast and added, I know you can be cheap sometimes, Dad. But I also know you're not a petty thief this time. Dad looked at me seriously. Thank you, son. That means a lot, but even after that, Dad was still visibly angry with Uncle Charlie. The two of them barely spoke that morning. Charlie even pulled me aside at one point, looking genuinely concerned. What can I do to fix this? He asked. I didn't have a good answer. I shrugged. I don't really know. So, Charlie did the only thing he could think of. He went to talk to Grandma. At dinner, Dad was still not talking to Uncle Charlie. Oh, come on, Alan. Talk to me, Charlie said. No, Alan replied. Look, I want to make this right, but you gotta help me, Charlie said. Please, tell me what I can do. I'm begging for your forgiveness. I am sorry, Alan said, but you did something, which affected my life in a deeply destructive way and I don't think I have it in me to forgive you. Hello? Anybody home? Evelyn called. In here, Mom, Alan replied. Well, how are my boys doing this evening? Evelyn asked as she entered the kitchen. Well, I think Mommy has the answer. Alan, if you find it intolerable living under the same roof with a brother who betrayed you, then you and Jake can come and live with me. I widened my eyes the moment Grandma said it. Dad looked at her for a moment, then finally turned back to Charlie. We're good, Alan replied immediately. For support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mh-junior, up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 85, Radio Buzz. The next day, I walked into the kitchen and found Charlie already leaning on the counter, flipping through stations on the small radio tucked near the coffee maker. His face lit up when he found the one he was looking for. Here it is, he said, adjusting the dial. Told you they'd play it again. He turned the volume up slightly. Sia's voice poured through the speakers, filling the kitchen with a familiar beat of titanium. I grabbed a mug and poured some coffee, trying not to grin too wide. Alan walked in, bleary-eyed and half awake. He stopped mid-step as he heard the song. Is that? Yup, Charlie said with a smirk. Your son's taking over the airwaves. Alan blinked, then looked at me with a proud face. The three of us exchanged silly smiles. By the way, don't wait up tonight, Charlie said, pouring himself coffee. Pretty confident, huh? Alan asked. Yeah, Charlie replied. Thus, the don't wait up, I added, like it was obvious. Didn't you meet this girl a couple of days ago? Alan asked, a little surprised. Yup. So tonight's the night, Charlie said proudly. You know, the 3-day rule. That's the 3-date rule, Alan corrected. 3 dates? That's crazy talk, Charlie said, shaking his head. All right. If you bring her back here, please be discreet, Alan added. Don't worry, Charlie said with a grin. First night's always at her place. Is that another rule? Alan asked a little sarcastic. No. It's just a common courtesy, Charlie replied. A woman's more relaxed and comfortable in her own surroundings, plus, the minute she falls asleep, I can hit the bricks, Charlie added casually. That's lovely, Alan replied, now fully in sarcastic mode. It's a shame you don't work for Hallmark. Oh yeah, my friends are coming over today, I said, remembering suddenly. Who? Carly, Freddie, and Sam, Alan asked with a smile. He liked the three of them. They were good kids. Yes, and a new friend, I added. Is it a pretty girl? Charlie asked playfully. I hope so. Or she's a damn pretty boy, I said, joking. Right then, my phone started to ring. I glanced at the screen and smirked. Speaking of the devil, Charlie, already catching on, leaned closer, and the two of us silently counted down on our fingers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I picked up. Hey Laura, how you doing? To Alan, watching us, looked astonished, then just scoffed. Charlie stepped closer to him and said, Learn something from your son. Alan scoffed again. I turned my attention back to the phone. So your acting class ended earlier today? I asked. A pause. Yeah, you can come here sooner. Charlie was giving me a thumbs up and nodding approvingly like I just closed a business deal. See you soon. Bye-bye, Laura, I said before ending the call. So, Laura, huh? Alan said, not really sure what else to say. She's a nice girl, I replied simply, smiling. After a few minutes, the doorbell rang. Laura was standing outside, headphones in her ears and an MP3 player in hand. She was softly singing along, I want you to be happier. I want you to be happier. So I'll go. The moment I heard it, I couldn't help but smirk wider. She pulled out the MP3 headphones and smiled. Hi, Jake. Hey, I said, greeting her with a kiss on the cheek. Then I turned and gestured toward the kitchen. Come on, let me introduce you. This is my Uncle Charlie, and that's my dad, Alan, I said. When we stepped into the kitchen, both of them greeted her with a friendly hi, Laura. Then I led her out to the deck, where the sky was bright blue and the temperature a comfortable 23 degrees, even if it was late February 4th. Alan, watching from the kitchen, murmured to himself, rethinking what he said earlier. I might need to learn something from my son. Quietly walking back to his coffee. Charlie, standing nearby, muttered with a hint of amusement, now he's playing Super Bowl, huh? Clearly impressed, we sat on the deck, the breeze still gentle and the sun just right. So, you like Marshmello? I asked. How could I not? He's so good, she said with a wide smile. Even if he doesn't sing, I joked. Don't say that, she replied playfully, knowing I was only messing around. Yet, with all the sudden hype, there had been some envy floating around. Some people even claimed he wasn't a real singer, as I didn't sing any song. Too. Can you believe it's only been like a week since he released those songs? Laura said, still amazed. You have no idea, I said, smiling. The conversation went on for a while. After some time, the doorbell rang again. I opened the door and there they were, Carly, Sam, and Freddie, standing just outside, already chatting among themselves. We exchanged quick greetings. Carly looked at me with a teasing smile. Why the wide grin? Jake, the weather's good, life's good, I said, smiling right back when the three of them exchanged glances, not understanding what I meant. Come on, I said, motioning toward the deck. Let's head outside. I slid the door open, revealing Laura already seated with a glass of iced tea, waving politely. Carly and Freddie smiled and walked over to greet her. Sam, however, lingered behind, narrowing her eyes slightly as she looked at me. What? I asked. There's something fishy, Sam said, crossing her arms to maybe it's the ocean, I replied, pointing toward the water with a smirk. No, you idiot, she said, now smiling, giving me a light punch on the arm. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 86, New Dynamics. Sam gave me one last skeptical glance before finally stepping out onto the deck. I followed behind her as Carly and Freddie were already making themselves comfortable. Laura greeted them both warmly, and it didn't take long before the four of them were in conversation. I sat back in my chair, watching the dynamic unfold. It was interesting. Carly was naturally friendly, asking Laura about her acting classes. Honestly, I felt lucky. I ended up with the iCarly crew, like comedy teens with sarcasm and weird ideas, not some intense, angst-filled teen drama types 5. Well, if it had been one of those drama-heavy schools, I would have just transferred. No way I'd want that kind of emotional turbulence. While Laura was still talking about her acting classes, I suddenly remembered something. Oh yeah, Laura. Speaking of movies, one I worked on with Carly, Sam, and Freddie is premiering in 2 weeks. She turned to me, eyes wide, and grabbed my arm with both hands. You made a movie and you're telling me this now? Well, we've only known each other for a few days, I said with a grin. And I kinda forgot about it, Laura blinked, then laughed. That's true. But it feels like we've known each other way longer. That's because I'm a delightful person, I said, pretending to be pompous. Everyone around the table burst into laughter. Pompous person, Carly said jokingly. Nerdy person, Sam added right after. The two of them glanced at Freddie, waiting for his input, but he said nothing. Come on, Freddie, Carly nudged. Nah, he's my best buddy, Freddie said, cracking a smile too. I patted him lightly on the back. That's what a friend is, I added, pointing a finger first at Carly, then at Sam. Everyone chuckled. The mood was light and easy. Laura smiled too. I kinda envy the friendship you all have, she said sincerely. You don't need to, I replied with a welcoming grin. You're one of us now, totally, Carly added, smiling. Yet, no turning back, Sam said with a smirk. Freddie nodded with a small laugh. Welcome to the madness, Sam glanced at Laura with a curious look. But I thought you'd be more into hanging out with Cher and Regina. It was a fair point. While we all had lunch together sometimes, outside of school it was usually the four of us, me, Carly, Sam, and Freddie. Cher and Regina had their own tastes, their own kind of vibe. Different shows, different hangouts. But I hang out with both of them from time to time. Laura just smiled. Despite how I look, I'm not really into those shopping mall hangouts and all that. Once in a while, sure, but it's not really my thing. I actually prefer this kind of get-together, more relaxed. Well, and you need good money to keep up with those two rich girls, unless you're okay with just watching them buy everything. And Cher and Regina can be a bit much with the gossip too, I thought. Most people enjoy a little gossip here and there, but sometimes it just gets exhausting. Laura turned back to me suddenly. Hey, about a movie, remembering what we were talking about. It's a horror film, I explained. Carly and Sam acted in it, and Freddie was our cameraman. I'm not giving you any more spoilers, I added, grinning. You'll have to watch it yourself. Wanna come with us to the premiere? I invited her. You bet, Laura said with an enthusiastic nod. What Jake's not telling you, Carly chimed in, is that the whole idea was his. From the story to actually filming it, Freddie nodded. Yeah. He even gave input on some of the shots we used. Wow, Laura said, impressed as she looked at me. But you don't have to worry, Sam said. The movie's not even that scary. Carly and Freddie exchanged glances, noticeably thinking otherwise. The five of us kept talking through the afternoon. Laughter came easily, and so did the stories. From school moments to behind-the-scenes bits about the film, time passed quickly. As the sky started to darken and the air cooled, I glanced at the time. Hey, if you want, my driver can take you all home, I offered. Carly, Sam, and Freddie looked up, surprised. Thanks, Jake, Carly said. They gathered their things while I coolly added, actually, since the car only has 4 seats, I'll go with Laura right after he drops you guys off. Too. They nodded, no one questioning it. Once they left, I leaned back for a moment. The car I used was one of those luxury models refitted for comfort, only 4 seats, but the kind where the back felt more like a first-class cabin than a regular car. I'd hired a driver a while ago. I had enough money for it already, and with a marshmallow project taking off, even though hardly anyone knew it was me, it felt smart to think about safety. Plus, having a driver gave me a lot more freedom to move around and plan things without constantly calling cabs or need Uncle Charlie, Dad or Mom. Laura looked at me with a slightly suspicious smile. "The car really only has 4 seats?" she asked, half joking. "I wouldn't lie about that," I said, grinning. "You'll see in like 2 hours." "How would I even explain myself if I was making it up?" "I don't know," she replied with a mock shrug, her hands behind her back and an amused smile on her face. About 2 hours later, the driver returned. Laura and I got into the car, and he took her home. We talked a bit more during the ride, just easy conversation and quiet laughs. After I walked her to the door, we shared a small goodnight kiss. Then the driver brought me home. Back at the house, I dropped my bag and sit onto the living room couch. I grabbed a book and started reading, enjoying the calm after a nice day. Not long after, Uncle Charlie walked in through the front door, wearing an expression of mild disbelief, like the world had just shown him something he couldn't quite accept. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 87, Dating Himself. I looked up from my book just in time to see Uncle Charlie step into the living room. He stood there for a second, his face somewhere between annoyed and baffled. "You okay?" I asked, setting the book down. "You're back early," I pointed out. He didn't answer right away, just dropped his keys on the table with a soft clink and made his way to the kitchen, muttering something under his breath. When he finally returned with a glass of whiskey, he flopped onto the chair across from me. "Women, kid," he said, shaking his head, then raised his glass. "Something weird happened. I left without needing to sneak out, and then I hit the brakes." I lifted an eyebrow. "And you?" he asked, returning the question. "Just a few small kisses," I said nonchalantly. "The deck sure helped set the mood, huh?" Charlie smirked and nodded. "And you're only just getting started." The next day, I was having dinner with Dad in the kitchen when Charlie walked in. "So, no date tonight?" Dad asked. "I thought I'd just hang with you guys," Charlie replied, grabbing a beer from the fridge. "What about that girl you're seeing?" I asked. "Sherry? I'm taking it slow," Charlie responded. "One really? Do you mean at a leisurely pace, or as if you were developmentally challenged?" Alan asked. "Oh, aren't you clever?" "Bite me." Charlie leaned against the counter. "Alan, most beautiful women are used to guys chasing after them. They expect it. But if you hang back and stay cool, the women come to you." "That's actually kinda of the truth," I said. Laura just texted me," I added, glancing at my phone. Both of them glared at me. Charlie looked amused. Uncle Charlie then looked at Alan and completed, "Well, not to you specifically, but you get the theory." "Yeah, I'm not stupid," Alan said. "Just physically repellent, and inherently unlovable. Don't get snippy with me," Charlie muttered. "I'm trying to teach you something." His phone rang. "Hello? Oh, hey, Sherry. How is it going?" He turned away slightly. "Tonight? No, I'm sorry, I can't. I've already got plans." He shook his head at us. "How about tomorrow night?" "Oh, you've got plans. Okay. Well, Sunday? Monday? What about Tuesday?" he continued. There was a pause. "You know what? I'm looking at the wrong month in my date book. Tonight works. How about I pick you up at 9? "Okay, I'll meet you at 8. "Antonio's? The Oak Room it is. See you soon." Charlie hung up. "What just happened?" he asked aloud. "You were playing it slow," Alan said sarcastically. I just looked at him weirdly. A few hours later, I was back in the kitchen, a half-eaten tub of ice cream on the table, texting again with Laura and smiling at my phone. Dad walked in, having just finished listening to an entire song on the radio. He stood still for a moment, impressed. "That is really good," he said with a proud smile, looking over at me. He was referring to Marshmallows, my new track, "Hear Me Now, Alok." "Too glad you liked it," I said, smiling back. Just then, Uncle Charlie strolled into the kitchen. "Hey," Charlie greeted. "Hey, Dad," and I responded. "You're home early," Dad noted. Charlie grabbed my tub of ice cream from the table. "Alan, if you've got something to say, Why don't you just come out and say it? You're home early, Dad repeated, not fully following. Charlie narrowed his eyes. Yeah, that's smart. Keep pushing me, okay, Uncle Charlie. What happened? I asked, looking at him. He huffed but answered. She probably just had to get up early, like she said, probably. Unless her real date didn't start until later, and she just didn't want to eat alone, I said. What? Charlie frowned. Oh, come on, Uncle Charlie. Double booking. You practically invented it. Alan looked over, clearly irritated. What are you teaching my son? I'm not learning, Dad, I said unfazed. I don't do double booking dates. I might fool around, but the girls I kissed know exactly what it is. They know we're just having a good time. And I'm totally against cheating. 3 No, she wouldn't do that to me. Why would she do that to me? Did she do that to me? She did that to me, didn't she? Charlie said, spiraling a little. He kept going. She doesn't call when she says she will. She won't let me sleep over. She's obviously seeing other guys. So why can't I get her out of my head? He paused, then muttered under his breath, she's gorgeous, but she's also self-centered, she's promiscuous, she's commitment phobic. He suddenly froze, eyes wide. Oh my God, I'm dating myself. Alan crossed his arms and snorted. Now that's what I call karma. Charlie glared at him in silence. I just shook my head. The next day, Uncle Charlie mentioned something about paying it back and went out again with Sherry. A few hours later, he returned. Dad and I were in the living room when he walked in. So, how'd it go? Dad asked. Great, Charlie said, feigning confidence. I took control. I regained my self-respect. I walked out of there with my head held high. So, blue balls, I murmured. But still has balls, I added. Good for you. Good for you, Dad nodded. So you're done beating yourself up? Not quite, Charlie replied. Yet, it wasn't a war Uncle Charlie could win. Either way, he was going to lose something. Make Ross, finally, I'm not the butt of the blue balls jokes anymore. 3. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 88, Another Kiss. 2 weeks later, I was on the deck of Uncle Charlie's house, kissing Laura. Not like those soft, shy kisses we exchanged when she first came here. This was deeper, a French kiss. The sun was dipping low, casting everything in that golden hour glow. The ocean murmured nearby, and the breeze was just cool enough to make her lean a little closer. Inside, in the kitchen, Dad and Uncle Charlie were both watching from the window. Charlie let out a low whistle. He sure knows how to score, Charlie said. Alan just stared, blinking. Should I be proud or concerned? Back on the deck, Laura and I were still wrapped in a kiss when the song playing on the small radio beside us faded out. A new track began, something with a familiar beat. I pulled back slightly. I started to hum along, then sing softly, where there's a will, there's a way, kind of beautiful and every night has its day, so magical, and if there's love in this life, there's no obstacle that can't be defeated. I raised one hand like a conductor, my finger dancing in the air like I was leading an invisible orchestra. Laura opened into a wide smile, watching me, then began to hum along too, her eyes lighting up with playful delight. For every tyrant, a tear for the vulnerable, in every lost soul, the bones of a miracle for every dreamer, a dream, we're unstoppable with something to believe in. Yeah, Marshmello, released this song earlier this week, Waiting for Love, of SEI. I turned back to Laura, her eyes still shining, and pulled her into another kiss. The doorbell rang. Neither of us noticed. Inside, Alan shook his head inside, then went to answer it. He opened the door to find Carly, Sam, and Freddie standing there. Alan smiled warmly, but a bit awkward. Hey, kids. Come on in. He rubbed the back of his neck and pointed toward the deck. Jake and Laura are out there. The 3 followed his gesture, spotting the 2 still kissing on the deck. Carly murmured, why am I not surprised? Maybe because we've seen something like that again, and again, and again, Sam added, a little sarcastically. The 3 of them laughed quietly and made their way out to the deck. Laura was the first to notice them. She quickly pulled away from me, her cheeks flushing pink. Hi, guys, she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I spun around, totally unfazed, half-dancing my way toward them, singing along with a new song that started playing on the radio. Leave excuses aside, speak out your mind, No, and don't let it slide. You're not always right. No, the things aren't easy, so just believe me now. I reached the entrance of the deck and gave them a wide grin. Hey, guys, they all replied with a normal hey. Carly looked slightly speechless at me. Do you have any shame? Like ever? No. Why? I asked, tilting my head like it was a weird question. He's just some exhibitionist, Sam said, mocking. Our little Sam learned a new word, I teased back. I'll show your little Sam, she said, giving me a playful punch on the arm. The four of us made our way over to where Laura was still sitting, her smile returning as we approached. There are snacks and drinks, feel free to take whatever, I said. But Sam was already stuffing a piece of chocolate into her mouth before I could even finish the sentence. Once everyone had taken a seat, I glanced around with a grin. So, is everyone ready for the premiere tomorrow? A chorus of excited yeas and nods came back instantly. We spent the rest of the afternoon talking, laughing, and just enjoying the calm before the big day. When it started getting dark, I asked again the driver to take Carly, Sam, and Freddie home. Even though Charlie and Dad both had cars in the garage with 5 seats, the driver still used my 4-seater. Then, when it came time to take Laura home, I did something different. Mind if I borrow the Mercedes? I asked Uncle Charlie casually. He raised an eyebrow but tossed me the keys anyway. Don't scratch it, he said. I handed the keys to the driver instead. When Laura and I were both seated inside the Mercedes, she gave me a curious glance. What? I asked, noticing the look. She tilted her head slightly, still studying me. The 4-seater's terrible for making out in the back. There's that hard center console between the seats, makes it way more uncomfortable, I said as I shifted toward the middle seat, settling in beside her like I was simply explaining a practical matter. Laura rolled her eyes with a laugh, then turned toward me, smiling. You are unbelievable, she said, emphasizing the last word slowly and clearly. Hey Jimmy, Westwood again please, I said to the driver. Jimmy gave me a knowing smile and nodded. James Jimmy Tong. I remember feeling weirdly disappointed when I saw his name on the resume during the selection process for my driver. So this world doesn't have a Jackie Chan? I actually checked online, and yeah, no Jackie Chan 6. I should check in the future if Jimmy has any desire to become an actor. Man, I really liked some Jackie's movies. And Jimmy? He's pretty funny. My thoughts were broken when Laura suddenly reached for my hand. I looked down, then back up at her, just as she raised one eyebrow with a teasing smirk. One girl, and you were judging me, I murmured with a grin as I leaned in to kiss her. After a while, we pulled up in front of Laura's house. I walked her to the door and gave her a soft, simple kiss goodbye, just a gentle peck. Then I climbed back into the car, this time taking the front passenger seat. I reached into my jacket, pulled out a small roll of cash, and handed it to Jimmy. Thanks, man. Sorry for the awkward moment, I said with a sheepish grin. Jimmy smiled, but held up a hand. This is too much? I can't take it. You're already paying my salary. He handed the cash back toward me, but I pushed it gently back into his hand. Take it, Jimmy. Just think of it as a bonus for working with me, I said. I'm generous with people I like, and besides, I know you took the longer route to get here, I added with a grin too. Jimmy chuckled, and we bumped fists. I had this idea for Jimmy, Jackie Chan, but I ended up not doing it, basically forgot about it. Maybe I'll have him star in Rush Hour in The Karate Kid. For support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh jr, up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89, Premiere Day. The day had finally arrived. The premiere of Paranormal Activity. Even though it was technically an indie project, the buzz around it had grown steadily, especially after Pepper worked her magic getting the right people talking. I stood in front of the mirror, straightening my collar. Black jacket, charcoal shirt, dark jeans. Downstairs, Dad was already pacing by the door. You ready? He asked, trying not to look more excited than me. Yes, I replied. Right then, The front door opened and Grandma Evelyn swept in like she owned the place. "Hello, boys," she said with a dramatic flair. "You look nice, Grandma," I said. "Of course I do. I don't dress up for just any occasion," she replied, brushing invisible lint off her coat. "And while I'm still not sold on this horror movie nonsense, I wouldn't dare miss the premiere of something I'm financially invested in." 5%, Mom," Dad muttered under his breath. 5% more than you contributed," she snapped, not missing a beat. "Too okay, let's go," I said, heading for the door. Then I turned back. "And Dad, please don't scream like you did here." Evelyn smiled sweetly and looped her arm through his. "Don't worry, Mommy will sit by your side again," Dad just glared at her. Charlie and Dad went in one car, while I rode with Grandma Evelyn and Jimmy, our driver. We were making a quick stop to pick up Laura on the way. Evelyn, seated in the front passenger seat, turned to glance back at me with a raised eyebrow. "So, how is this girl? Is she your girlfriend?" "No, Grandma. She's a good friend," I replied, then paused with a small smirk. "We kiss. But we're not dating," Evelyn smiled knowingly. "Be nice with her, okay?" I added. "I am nice," she said, a bit too emphatically too. I looked at her. She sighed. "Don't worry, sweetheart. Unlike your father, I trust that you're more than smart enough." A few minutes later, we pulled up to Laura's house. She stepped outside, wearing a sleek dress. "Wow," I said under my breath before catching myself. Hey," she replied with a smile. "You know this is an indie horror movie, right?" I teased. Laura laughed. "But it's still a premiere," I smiled and turned toward Evelyn. "Grandma, this is Laura." "Laura, this is my grandmother, Evelyn. So you're the girl he's been talking about," Evelyn said, giving her a quick once-over but with a polite smile. "Nice to meet you, dear." "Nice to meet you too," Laura replied, not missing a beat. With introductions made, we all got back into the car and headed to the theater. The cinema in downtown LA was buzzing, one of the biggest venues in the city, all prepped for our debut. The marquee out front glowed with our film's title. Inside, a red carpet had been rolled out, and rows of plush velvet chairs lined the theater. It was simple, but elegant. Guests were starting to arrive, friends from school, a few industry folks Pepper had invited. I stood near the entrance with Carly, Spencer, Sam, Freddie, and Laura. "I feel like we're at a real movie premiere," Carly said, amazed. "That's because we are," I said, a little weirdly, turning to her right. "Just feels surreal," Carly replied, her eyes darting around the venue, trying to take it. Cher and Regina arrived, both dressed in gowns even more glamorous than Laura's. I greeted them with a smile and raised an eyebrow. It was the same question I'd asked Laura earlier. "You all know this is an indie horror movie, right?" they both answered in unison. "But it's still a premiere." I shake my head and stepped aside to mutter to Freddie. "Did you get what I asked?" Freddie nodded and handed me a compact camera with an infrared mode. "Yet. What exactly are you planning?" "Obviously, I'm going to leave it filming their reactions," I whispered back, subtly gesturing toward Cher and Regina with my eyes too. We all filed into the theater and found our seats. I ended up between Carly and Laura 3 as the lights dimmed. Laura leaned in and whispered in my ear, "I really want to watch the movie." "What?" I said, caught off guard. Laura gave me a knowing look. I asked, "Do you think I would want a make-out session during my premiere?" She just glanced back at me, silent, steady. "Okay, fine," I muttered, letting out a half-defeated smile as I leaned back in my seat. The theater settled into silence as the opening scene of Paranormal Activity flickered to life on the big screen. It started slow, with quiet shots and subtle tension. But the first jump scare hit hard, and the reaction was immediate. A collective gasp erupted, followed by nervous laughter. Some people clutched the armrest. "Terrence, you're going to break the chair," I thought, watching how tightly he gripped the armrest. I glanced down the row toward Cher and Regina, both frozen in place. Cher's eyes were wide, and Regina had her hand halfway covering her mouth. Perfect. The camera I'd set up was definitely earning its keep. By the halfway mark of the movie, Laura was already clinging to my arm. Even Carly grabbed onto me from time to time. One eye leaned slightly toward Carly and whispered, "You were part of the film, and you've already seen it once." She shot me a wide-eyed look. "Still scary," she whispered back. I chuckled and murmured, "I didn't even need to tell my dad not to scream like a little girl. People are already doing it." As the movie reached its final stretch, the tension reached a peak. The entire audience was locked in, silent, breath held, eyes wide. After the final, only a few gasps escaped at first, barely audible over the theater. Then came the nervous laughter, the whispered "oh my gods." It took a long moment before the applause finally broke out. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh junior, up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 90, The Marketing. The next day, we all gathered at Carly's house. Carly, Freddie, Sam, Cher, Regina, Spencer, Laura, and I were spread out across the living room, still buzzing from the success of the premiere. In my hands, I held a DVD. "Alright, guys," I said with a grin, "let's see something funny." I walked over and slid the disc into the DVD player. The night before, I had handed the night vision camera over to Pepper. She made sure it got to someone reliable, who knew how to edit it. What we were about to watch was the final product, a highlight reel of the best, and worst, reactions from the premiere audience. The video started with a grainy, night vision shot of Cher and Regina whispering and laughing in their seats. Behind them, you could see Carly, Laura, and me sitting quietly, waiting for the movie to begin. Then, the video cut sharply to the first scare. Cher jolted in her seat and launched a handful of popcorn into the air, some of it raining down on her lap. Another cut. This time Regina screamed, her hands flying up instinctively. The next shot showed Laura clinging to me with her eyes tightly shut. In the same frame, Cher and Regina were doing the exact same thing, holding on to each other. And notably, there wasn't a single bag of popcorn visible anymore. By the end of the video, the room was filled with laughter. Everyone was cracking up, except Cher and Regina, who were laughing too, but with a hint of embarrassment. As the credits of the reel rolled, all three, Cher, Regina, and Laura, playfully started pinching me from both sides, giggling. "Payback," Laura whispered, still smiling. "So, what do you think?" I asked, still grinning. "You two were bugging me for not inviting you to the filming. How about I make this part of the movie's marketing?" The three of them froze, looking astonished, and just a little conflicted. I thought to myself, it's a little embarrassing, sure, but nothing bad. And they'd be seen in actual TV commercials for the film. That's not something most people get. "Think about it," I added. "I don't want you three feeling uncomfortable, so take your time. For me, it's good," Laura said quickly. She was an actress. This kind of thing was nothing to her. "I want to cut some of my bad side," Cher said. "It's a static camera," Freddie murmured. "There is no other side, and I want a bag as compensation," Regina added, arms crossed but smirking. "Okay," I said with a shrug. "A Louis Vuitton bag," Regina specified. "Still okay," I replied, trying not to laugh. Everyone turned to look at me, stunned, everyone except Freddie. "You do realize a Louis Vuitton bag can cost $3 to $4 grand, right?" Laura said, raising an eyebrow. "Wow," Freddie murmured. "Yes," I said calmly. "I can give you 3, 1 each. Oh, and Carly too, since she's in the footage as well. 1 How about me?" Sam chimed in. "You're not in the footage," I said. "And you want a Louis Vuitton bag?" "No," Sam said with a grin. "I want mine and snacks. I'll think about it," I replied to Sam. Then I turned to the 4 who were actually in the footage. "Tomorrow we'll meet with the person who edited this. Feel free to cut anything you're not comfortable with. We can make alternate edits too if needed." Cher, Regina, and Laura immediately lit up with excitement, already talking about which moments they'd keep or maybe tweak just a little. Only Carly stayed relaxed, her expression indifferent as she leaned back on the couch. Meanwhile, Cher and Regina were not only excited about the marketing idea, but also practically glowing at the thought of scoring a brand new Louis Vuitton bag. That week at school, Sam had developed her own brand of post-premiere mischief. She took great joy in sneaking up behind the boys who had attended the screening and whispering a simple, but sharp boo. The result sometimes was small jumps, wide eyes, and occasional yelp. It was a totally sitcom comedy. "Sam, seriously," Freddie groaned after watching her startle yet another sophomore. "What? I'm just keeping the hype alive," she said with a wicked grin. After a few more days, the film was officially released to the general public. Unlike the original release, we launched in 1,000 theaters right from the start. The first week's box office was an undeniable realization, grossing $14.5 million. Thanks to our marketing and month-to-month success. Critics, however, were mixed. Many praised the film for its ability to create genuine suspense and fear using the found footage format. The use of time-lapsed footage, particularly of the couple asleep, was noted as a unique and effective way to build tension. Some reviewers, like those at The Guardian, also applauded the naturalistic acting. But others weren't so generous, citing unrealistic character motivations and repetitive jump scares in subsequent installments. Still, it didn't matter much. What mattered was that we were making money. A few days later, I was in the office with Pepper, going over the next steps. We're going to increase the number of theaters showing Paranormal Activity, she said confidently. Our team estimates that with this expansion and the upcoming worldwide release revenue, we could surpass $120 million later this April. I just nodded, not really knowing what to say. Pepper continued, My Big Fat Greek Wedding has already wrapped and is now in post-production. We're planning to release it in June. And Brokeback Mountain should be ready for July. She tapped her pen against the desk, then added, Lost in Translation is looking like a September release. And with Paranormal Activity's success, we can move forward with the other horror projects, The Conjuring and Annabelle. Both will be significantly more expensive than Paranormal. Then Pepper shifted topics. Now, about Marshmello. I've already secured a deal with singer Ellie Goulding. For the second one, we're in advanced negotiations. 3 good, I said. Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mhjunior, up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 91, Momentum. Ellie Goulding was older than I remembered from my past life. She was already 20 years old. She had some fame, sure, a few songs floating around, but nothing that had fully launched her into stardom just yet. I wasn't surprised she accepted so quickly. Then I turned to Pepper and asked, So, Jennifer Lopez is really going to say yes? Yes. Marshmello's momentum is incredible, Pepper said without hesitation. You're the singer of the moment. Your songs might not attract the older audience as much, but you're starting to dominate the younger generation. You have no idea how many offers I get every single day. She paused for a beat and then added, and she liked the song. Well, On the Floor is a nice track. Not even close to one of my favorites, but it worked really well commercially. She'll be the first singer I collaborate with who's really at the top of global music right now, I said, still a little surprised by it myself. Pepper nodded. I wanted someone like her after hearing your first 5 songs. But after I saw the public's reaction, I decided it was better to wait a bit longer. The negotiations with Jennifer Lopez are now more balanced? Yeah, I said. I had agreed with Pepper when she changed her mind. We weren't in a rush for stardom. No need to negotiate a one-sided contract. After the meeting, I headed back to Uncle Charlie's house. Later that evening, I was sitting on the couch reading a book when the doorbell rang. Alan went to answer it. Moments later, I heard his voice, Mom. I glanced toward the door and called out, Hi, Grandma. Alan stepped away to get Charlie, leaving Evelyn to walk into the living room and sit beside me. I set the book aside and turned to her. So Grandma, do you like horror movies now? She gave me the same smirk I usually wore. No. I still think they're nonsense. But topping the weekly box office and earning that much money in just a few days, that part one like very much? She leaned back with a grin. Grandma just wants to know when she can brag to her friends about her incredible grandson. Movie and songs topping the charts, in a few years, Grandma, I replied with a soft smile. I still like my peaceful life, she nodded in understanding, then shifted topics with a glint in her eye. Your Uncle Charlie thinks I don't see him, but Grandmommy sees everything. Charlie and Alan walked back in from the deck, Charlie spreading his arms and saying, Mom, we didn't expect to see you today. I have to come unannounced, Evelyn replied. Because when I call first, there's no one home when I get here. She gave a meaningful look as she added, I imagine that's only because my cowardly sons are trying to avoid me. Well, the important thing is we're all here, and we're happy to see you, Alan said, trying to smooth over the awkward moment. Right, Charlie. Oh, happy isn't the word, Charlie murmured. So, what's new, Mom? Alan asked. Well, if you really care, we do, Alan said quickly, nudging Charlie. We do, Charlie echoed. Evelyn placed a hand on my shoulder. Besides the old news that the only Harper who makes me proud is this one, she said, nodding toward me. Next Sunday, I'm receiving my gold blazer from the West Side Realtors Association. I'm so proud of you, I said sincerely. That's great, Alan added. Me too, Mom, Charlie chimed in. It's the highest honor the real estate community can bestow, Evelyn declared proudly. I'm so proud of you, Alan said, copying me. That's great, Charlie echoed. So I wanted to talk to you about the presentation ceremony, Evelyn continued. We'll be there, Alan assured her. Just tell us where and when. Well, next Sunday at 5 o'clock. And I was hoping we could have it here, Alan blinked. Why here? Charlie added. I mean, we love and respect you, Alan began. But why here? Charlie repeated. This isn't really a good house for parties, Alan offered. Yet, it's so big and close to the ocean, Charlie said sarcastically. Come on. I can't very well throw a party for myself, Evelyn said. This way, everyone will get to see how much my sons love and respect me. She handed over a list. Anyway, here is the guest list and also a suggested menu. Nothing fancy. Cocktails, buffet. Any questions? No, Alan, Charlie, and I said in unison. Good. Big kiss. Love you all, Grandma said as she headed for the door. Love you too, Mom, Alan said. Bye, Grandma, I added. Charlie was still too stunned to say anything, standing there in silence as the door closed behind her. As I started to get up, I said, I'll go meet Laura Sue. Alan placed a hand on my shoulder. Oh no, you're in this with us, Charlie, recovering just enough to join in, placed a hand on my other shoulder. Yet, our little proud Harper, the three of us sat on the couch in a quiet moment of reluctant solidarity. Now, what about this stupid party? Charlie muttered. Here. Maybe this'll help, Berta said as she walked in, having overheard everything. She handed Charlie a business card. Daisy's Fishing Tackle and Live Bait, Charlie read, eyebrows raised. Turn it over, Berta replied. Daisy's Classy Catering, Alan read from the back. She's my sister. Her husband left. I'm trying to get her back on her feet, Berta explained. She runs a catering business and a bait shop, Alan asked. Not at the same time, Berta deadpanned, then turned and headed toward the kitchen without another word. I grabbed the card from Charlie's hand and tossed it into the trash. Hey, Charlie and Alan protested at the same time. Are you two kidding? I said, looking between them. That's Berta's relative. The chance we'll run into trouble is already high. And the chance Grandma hates it? Even higher. I'll call someone who actually knows how to handle parties, I said, pulling out my phone. Who? Both Alan and Charlie asked in unison. I made a small gesture for them to wait as I dialed. Hi, Regina, how are you? I need your help. Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mhjunior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 92, Party Planners. Regina, Cher, and Laura showed up at the house less than an hour later. Hi Jake, I brought reinforcements, Regina said brightly, gesturing to Cher and Laura. Laura chuckled. I think she means Cher. I don't have much knowledge when it comes to fancy parties. Hey, girls, I greeted them with a smile. Come on in, join my uncle and dad on the couch. They've been waiting for backup. Everyone settled on the couch, making room as I pulled out the guest list and a printed copy of the suggested menu Grandma had given us. I handed them over to Regina, who immediately began scanning the pages with sharp eyes. So it's a party for around 45 people, pretty manageable, she said, glancing over the guest list. Your grandma has good taste, she added, nodding approvingly at the menu. Alan and Charlie exchanged glances. Well, I think I know what kind of party your grandma wants, Cher said thoughtfully. Regina nodded. She wants it to be a step above everyone else's on the list, but without going overboard. Charlie blinked, clearly not getting it. I leaned over and clarified with a smirk. Grandma wants to show she's the superior one, just with a touch of fake humbleness. I continued, she doesn't want an over-the-top party that makes the guests feel intimidated and start whispering about how stuck up she is. She wants something that quietly says she's above them. Envy, but not too much envy. Yes, that feels like our mother, Alan and Charlie said at the same time, both nodding knowingly. After a while, Regina finally said, I got the food service, I got the party decoration, Cher added right after, confidently. Party decoration? Uncle Charlie asked, raising an eyebrow. Yes, Cher replied. We need everything to resemble her. It's her party. She needs to be the center of attention, she continued, so we're going to put a large photo of your mom right here in the living room, and scatter some pictures of her with you two around the house, showing what a wonderful mother she is. Alan and Charlie exchanged glances again. You do have a photo with her, right? Cher asked, arching an eyebrow. Well, Charlie said, trying to remember. I might have one in one of those boxes, Alan added thoughtfully. The day of the party arrived, and the house had been transformed. Everything was in place, subtle lighting, elegant drapery, beautifully arranged tables, and soft classical music playing in the background. The air smelled faintly of fresh flowers and expensive candles. Charlie walked up to me, glancing around at the impeccable setup. Your friends really know what they're doing, he said, visibly impressed. I smiled, watching as Regina gave instructions near the catering table and Cher adjusted a centerpiece like it was a fashion accessory. Laura was greeting guests at the door like she'd been born for it. Yes, I said. Soon enough, it was my turn to help with the greetings. I stepped beside Laura at the door, straightened my shirt, and offered a practiced smile to the arriving guests. Jake Harper, I said smoothly, shaking hands as people entered, doing my best impression of someone who had been hosting formal parties for years. That was, until one man stepped forward with a wide grin and offered his hand. Phil Dunphy, 7. I blinked for a moment, caught slightly off guard by the name, but quickly recovered and shook his hand politely. Inwardly, I couldn't help but think, now it's Modern Family? Isn't it getting a little crowded in here? I remembered watching a few seasons of that show. They're a funny family, I thought. I wouldn't mind hanging around them. But the thing is, I'm not some creepy who'd stalk them just to show up out of nowhere and try to insert myself into their lives. They're funny, but not worth lowering myself like that to. The gay couple are good, but one of them is way too much of a drama queen for my taste. Jay and Gloria would probably be the best to hang with. Jay's blunt, and Gloria's chaos is entertaining. Claire would be fun just to annoy her. Then there are two dumb kids, a grandpa kid, and one who thinks way too highly of herself too. Haley Dunphy is cute, yes. But that's it. Not a single standout quality. Popularity? High school popularity, not worth much? But still, I wouldn't mind kissing her, to be honest. 8 yet, if they crossed my path, I wouldn't object to interacting with them. But I wouldn't force it or make any effort to make that happen. Not worth it. Laura suddenly appeared beside me, snapping me out of my thoughts. What are you thinking so deeply about? About you, I replied without blinking. Laura laughed. Don't you have any shame lying like that? She said, playfully slapping my arm. How do you know it's a lie? I asked. Woman's intuition, she replied with a smirk. Now you're the one bullshitting me, I said. Just then, Evelyn appeared, walking in with Alan by her side. That night, Alan, Charlie, and I were sitting on the couch while Evelyn stood in front of us, wearing a radiant smile. I need to say, I wasn't expecting much, but you really surprised me, she began. The photos, what a brilliant idea. You should have seen Jenna's face. And when I received that beautiful bouquet of flowers. Did you see Elena's reaction? She continued like that for a while, her voice full of praise, her mouth, however, dripped with poison, before finally saying her goodbyes, still smiling and tossing out compliments on her way to the door. I don't think our mother deserved that much, Alan said quietly. Yet, it's like we just did a good deed for Satan, Charlie added. Did you two prefer her being angry instead? I asked, raising an eyebrow. They both thought for a second and said, definitely not. If you don't have many options, just pick the lesser evil, I murmured too. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 93, The Call. The day after, I picked up my phone and called Missy. Hey, I said as soon as she picked up. So, what did you think of the movie? There was a short pause before she replied. Okay, first of all, my parents didn't want me to go see it just because it was a horror movie. My mom said something about blasphemy and demons and refused to come. So how did you see it? I convinced my brothers to go with me, she said proudly. Missy didn't need to convince Georgie to go with her, nor did she need a fake ID. Paranormal Activity was rated PG-13, another great move by Pepper. The original, if I remember correctly, was rated R for excessive foul language. I chuckled. So, that's a good thing, right? It was terrifying. But yet, I loved it, she said. I can't believe you didn't warn me properly. And don't think I didn't notice your name in the credits, I laughed. And what about that video camera I sent you? Missy lit up. I set it up right in front of us. I watched the footage after, it's hilarious. Sheldon was screaming like a little girl, and even Georgie made some funny faces. I'm totally using it against them. One, she continued, there was this one part in the movie where Sheldon kept muttering, this is not real, and that's not physically possible, but he was still clearly terrified. I laughed. Just don't go overboard. We chatted a bit more before saying our goodbyes. After the call, I started pressing through my Nokia 3310 buttons to browse my contacts. When I passed Tori's name, I paused for a moment. We'd grown a bit distant after she and her family moved to Europe, thanks to her dad's job. Then I kept tapping and saw another name, Paige Swanson. Yet, I hadn't talked to her since my birthday. 3 Rory, never called her. Mandy, Barbados, never called her. Joni? Why do I even have her in my contacts? And how does a 9-year-old even have a phone? Oh yeah, her mom was absolutely nuts. Next up, Josh Buckeye. Should I tell him to go see the movie? 1, nah. Then came Aunt Rachel. I tapped the call button and brought the phone to my ear, listening to the dial tone as it rang. Hi, Ranch, I said when she answered. Hello, Jake, she replied warmly. I was just thinking about calling you. Just a moment, I could hear her calling out in the background, rounding everyone up. A few seconds later, I heard a chorus of 4 different voices calling out hi, Jake, from the other end of the line. So, I said with a grin, who was the one that screamed like a little girl during the movie? Ross, I heard them all say in unison from the other end of the line. Oh man, I thought it would be Chandler. Lost that bet with my uncle, I said. I heard an indignant hey, in Chandler's unmistakable voice from the other end. But he did embrace me pretty tightly, Monica added with a laugh. A second, even more indignant hey, from Chandler followed. It was a pretty scary movie, Rachel chimed in. No it was not, Ross said defensively. Even Jake is making a deadpan face now, Ross, Chandler added. Yeah, but what was more scary was watching it next to Phoebe, Monica said. She just laughed through half the movie. One, it was funny that possession part, Phoebe added casually. Oh, I almost forgot, Rachel said suddenly. We made a bet about a movie too, OWW, I muttered. It was more about a movie marketing clip, the one you're in, she explained. Okay, I said, a bit wary. We bet on how many of the 4 girls in the clip you've kissed, Rachel continued. What? I said, genuinely surprised. Who said I kissed anyone there? I added, feigning indignance. I bet just one, Ross chimed in. That's way too little, Dino Dad, I shot back. Everyone burst out laughing. Oh, now I understand why Monica called me earlier this week acting all suspicious, fishing for gossip, I said with mock realization. Really, Monica? Rachel said, exasperated. She loves to win, Chandler added. I bet 2 of them, Phoebe uttered cheerfully. I bet all of them, Monica declared confidently. Chandler and I bet 3, Rachel added, but different girls. You 2 got the correct answer, I said. I didn't kiss the one with a more Asian look. She's one of my best friends, 3 YESSS, Chandler shouted. I win, damn Jake, go kiss her, Monica said, frustrated. 3 You're really making the most of high school, Rachel said with a chuckle. By the way, Monica jumped in, we're going to Vegas. 3 The rest of the group cheered in excitement. Now that Joey's filming is wrapped up, it was shot in Toronto and Chicago, he said he's spending some time in Las Vegas. We're going there to surprise him, nice, I said. And after that, we might swing by to visit you in LA, Monica added. Noisy, I grinned. 1 Just call me, I'll prepare something cool, I added. After chatting a bit more with each of them, I finally said my goodbyes and hung up. Las Vegas, I murmured to myself. Was there any Friends episode set there, I wondered, thinking back. Well, the timeline's already a mess, and with all my interference, things might have shifted even more. 7 Just then, my phone rang again. It was Carly. Hello, Carly, what's up? I answered. There's something I need to tell you, she said. Can you come over? 1 Okay, I'll be there in an hour, I replied. Support link, https:// www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjunior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 94, The Secret. It was early evening at Carly's house. Freddie, Carly called but he didn't answer, so she blasted pressurized air at his hair. Ow! Freddie flinched. Why so jumpy? She asked. "'Cause you blasted me in the head with pressurized air," he replied. "I was here, I know what happened," Carly said, rolling her eyes. "So, how'd Sam do at the dentist? Did she bite him?" Freddie guessed. 4 times. "He may lose part of his finger. But then, the dentist gave her some of that wacky gas," Carly said. "Nitrous oxide, hum, and then, what? Oh, she started saying some pretty weird stuff," Carly explained. "Weird how? Like, she thought her thumb was missing, was it?" "No," she exclaimed. "And then, she said you two kissed, so she really thought her thumb was missing?" "That's so crazy," Freddie said, half laughing, half awkward. Carly looked at him, astonished. "And she said you two kissed," she repeated. "I'm coming, Mom," Freddie said quickly, stepping away. "Your mom didn't call you. I heard the whistle." 5 Carly folded her arms. "Is what Sam said true?" "No," Freddie replied. "I'm sure she has both her thumbs," he added. "Did you and Sam kiss?" Freddie yelped, startled. "Ag, tell me," Carly demanded, jumping at Freddie. "No, whoa. When did you get so strong?" she asked, surprised, when Freddie managed to flip her over and end up on top. "Same time the voice got lower," Freddie said with a shrug. Carly narrowed her eyes. "Did you and Sam kiss?" Freddie sighed. "Okay. Yes, it's true. Sam and I kissed." "Oh my God," Carly gasped. "I was bummed about never kissing anyone. She asked me to talk to her in school on that day. She said it was true that she never kissed anyone either, and then we ended up kissing," Freddie explained. "Oh my God," Carly repeated. "It was just one time," he said quickly. Just then, the front door opened and Sam walked in, holding a bag of snacks. "Hey nerds," she greeted casually, tossing the bag onto the table. Freddie's eyes widened. Carly turned to face her. "Hey, Sam, feeling better?" Carly asked carefully. "Yeah, the gas wore off. Mostly," Sam replied, flopping down into the armchair. There was an awkward pause. Sam looked between the two of them. "Did I say something dumb while I was loopy?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "You said we kissed," Freddie muttered. "Oh," Sam blinked and turned pale. "After all the conversations," Carly said, "we need to tell Jake too." "Okay," both Sam and Freddie replied at the same time. "Hey, why did you agree so easily?" Carly asked, astonished and a little annoyed. "Well, he's our friend." "My best guy friend," Freddie said. "Yeah, mine too," Sam agreed. "I'll call him," Carly muttered, still a bit frustrated. I walked into Carly's house. "How's my golden trio doing?" One they greeted me, but Carly didn't waste a second. Sam and Freddie kissed, too. My face stayed blank. Not the reaction they were expecting. "So, who told Carly?" I asked casually. "You knew?" the three of them shouted in sync. "Yeah," I said, cool as ever. "How?" they all asked. No. I asked first," Carly sighed. "Okay. I took Sam to the dentist. She was under some relaxing gas and," she confessed, "so you only know that they kissed?" "Yeah," Carly exclaimed, like there couldn't be more to it. "That's gold," I said, slowly stepping backward. "So they didn't tell you about the fluffy conversation before the kiss?" The golden trio turned pale. Especially Sam and Freddie. I put a hand on my heart. I was there. With Cher. "I heard everything," I said, making a face like I just saw something ridiculously cute. I burst into laughter and started running. "You're dead, Jake. Come here," Sam screamed. Even Freddie was shouting as they chased me. After a few minutes of playing tag, we were back at Carly's place. "Now I need to hear it," Carly said firmly. "No," both Sam and Freddie yelled. Carly turned to Sam. "What did we say about no more secrets?" Sam and Freddie exchanged glances, then both let out a sigh. "Fine," Sam muttered. So they told Carly everything. From the awkward conversation to the spontaneous, awkward first kiss. "Or one," Carly said, grinning. "That is gross, Carly," Sam replied with a groan, throwing a pillow at her. Carly turned to me. "You never told me." "Why?" I shrugged with a half smile. It wasn't mine to tell. Figured it would come out when it needed to. I told Cher not to tell anyone too. Suddenly, Sam banged the table, startling all of us. Now I understand why Cher sometimes looks with that smug bastard smile to me, she muttered. Cher smiles like that all the time, I said, then paused with a grin. But with you, it's totally because of the kiss. I could barely hold back a laugh. Carly couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. Sam immediately grabbed another pillow and threw it at her. Speaking of secrets, I said, leaning back a bit, I think it's time I tell Laura about Marshmello. The three of them turned to look at me. So you two are dating, Carly asked, tilting her head. Not really. We're kissing, I said with a pause, then added with a smug face, and kissing, too. Now it was Carly who grabbed the pillows that had been thrown at her earlier, and launched them straight at me. Freddie raised an eyebrow. When do you think you'll tell her? This week, I said. I've got 2 more songs to record, so it feels like the right moment. That got all 3 of them excited. New songs? Carly asked, lighting up. Yeep, I said with a nod. And I'm thinking of bringing her too, like all of you. I looked around at them. Cher, Regina, Carly, Sam, and Freddie had never missed a Marshmello recording session. 1. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 95, Recording Reveal. Laura and I were on the deck at Charlie's house, locked in a long, lingering kiss. She pulled back slightly, just enough to look me in the eye. Her cheeks were flushed, her smile soft. So, today it's only the 2 of us? Laura asked, tilting her head. What? I'm not enough, I replied, pretending to be offended, a playful smirk tugging at my lips. Laura laughed softly and rested her head on my shoulder. You're more than enough. I was just surprised, that's all. I've gotten used to entourage. Me too. I love them, I said, sounding completely innocent. But they gave me those annoyed eyes when I tried to kiss you deeply. You are so shameless, Jake, Laura said, a little speechless. And that only happened 2 times, Laura added, explaining it like she was defending herself. I was just joking. 1 time was just to annoy Carly. She was too chill that day. The other, I wanted to see you blush a little. Despite how it might seem, I'm actually against over-the-top public displays of affection. I know how uncomfortable that can be for others. Most of the times they caught me kissing Laura or other girl, we were tucked away somewhere a bit more hidden. I even bought another car, a modified Rolls-Royce with a divider between the passenger and driver seats. Pepper had one like that too, and it really came in handy for privacy. One Uncle Charlie ended up buying part of the adjacent lot and expanded the garage. Now it fits up to 8 cars comfortably. I have 2 cars, Alan has 2, and, surprisingly, Uncle Charlie just has 1 too. He'll probably buy another one soon. Later, we both settled into the beach chairs on the deck. Laura curled up on my lap. She was clicking through her MP3 player, the one with the tiny Marshmello keychain dangling from it, gently swaying with each of her movements. Happier, Friend Zone, Alone, Faded, Titanium, Hear Me Now, Waiting for Love, and Now Summer, she said, listing the tracks one by one too. She looked up at me with a soft smile. Every time, it gets harder to choose my favorite. Now that you mentioned it, I said, shifting slightly in the chair, I have a secret to tell you. Too. Laura looked at me, raising an eyebrow. If it's that Freddie and Sam kissed, I already know. How? Did Cher tell you? I asked, a little surprised. No, she knew too, Laura replied. I overheard them talking about it. I mean, they're not exactly the most discreet when it comes to whispering things, and you're telling me? I asked. I'm 100% sure you already knew. And I don't see what the big deal is. I know. But Laura rolled her eyes and smiled at me. I know. I wouldn't tell anyone else. I leaned in and gave her a quick kiss. Just a small one. But as I felt her begin to deepen it, I gently pulled back and grinned. Nope, I didn't tell the secret yet. Laura adjusted herself, sitting more upright in my lap. This must be good, for you to postpone a makeout session. It is, I said, meeting her gaze. Then I looked her in the eyes. I'm Marshmello, too. Laura blinked, then burst out laughing. Really? How can you lie like that without even blinking? I smiled and simply said, I'm telling the truth, Laura. I'm Marshmello. Laura continued laughing, but then looked at me with an amused, suspicious smile. "Really, what is your game, Jake?" she asked. "Make out? Not that you couldn't initiate the whenever. Try to be funny? But you wouldn't say it twice." She paused, then continued, "A prank? But you're not really that kind of a person." I spoke a bit more seriously now, though the smirk never left my face. "I'm Marshmallow." Laura stopped laughing and took a breath. This time, she just gave a half smile. "You're not joking, are you?" she said, trying to process it. I simply shook my head. She paled a little, then looked deep into my eyes and stayed there for a moment. "Wait, no way. No. Freaking way," she whispered. Then she let out a small scream. "You are the fucking Marshmallow, too." "Wow, you said a bad word," I teased, raising an eyebrow. "I'm hyperventilating here, and you still have the gall to joke," she said, a little annoyed. I leaned in and pulled her into a kiss. At first, she turned her face away, still caught in her whirlwind of emotions, but then, she eased and kissed me back. We stayed like that for a while, letting the moment speak for itself. When eventually, we pulled apart. Laura rested her head on my shoulder again, her fingers lightly brushing the MP3 player still in her hand. The little marshmallow charm swayed gently. "I still can't believe this is you," she said with a smile, glancing at the charm before pressing play. Laura and I were on our way back to her house, riding in my new Rolls Royce. Jimmy was driving, as usual, and had already raised the divider between the front and back seats, giving us complete privacy. "You're the number one singer in the U.S., Laura said, shaking her head. "One now," I replied, leaning back. "There's still a lot to conquer to be the number one, even if the momentum is mine," I smirked and added, "especially considering I haven't even sung yet." Laura's eyes widened. "That's true. I forgot about that. I saw you singing, and you were really good." "Why aren't you singing?" "For the same reason I'm using an identity like Marshmallow," I replied. "I don't want to be too famous." "Not right now. You are unbelievable, Jake," Laura said. I looked at her and chuckled. This time, that line felt a little different. Almost forgot," I said, turning slightly toward her. "Another reason I told you I'm Marshmallow was to invite you to my next recording session. I'm working on 2 new tracks this week. Want to come?" Laura lost her cool for the second time that day. "What? Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96, Info Dumping. A few days later, the recording session with Ellie Goulding finally happened. Everyone was gathered in the studio lounge, watching through the glass as Marshmallow and Ellie stood inside the recording booth. The room was dimly lit, focused entirely on the 2 figures behind the soundproof wall. Ellie adjusted her headphones and gave a small nod to the producer. Then, as the track began to play, her voice floated effortlessly into the room outside. "Carlvin Harris, one look at what you've done. Stand still, falling away from me when it takes so long. Fires out, what do you want to be?" I stood a few steps beside her, hidden behind the Marshmallow helmet, letting the music guide the mood while I observed every detail with calm intensity. Back in the lounge, Laura leaned forward in her seat, eyes fixed on the booth. "I'm still kinda in disbelief about all this," she said, trying to enjoy the music. "You get used to it after a while," Cher said with a knowing smile. "But looking at it now," Regina added, "maybe it's because we've been here from the start, and we've become a little numb. Because really, it is unbelievable if you stop and think about it." 3. She continued, "We're basically witnessing the birth of another song that'll probably be a hit across the entire country. It's more than that, he's becoming a global phenomenon," Pepper added seriously. "He's already top 10 in some European countries." The 3 of them looked at her, slightly astonished. By the end of the session, I had recorded more than just Outside and I Need Your Love. We ended up doing a 3rd track, Burn. It wasn't exactly the kind of song I imagined Marshmallow performing, but Ellie's voice had impressed me so much that I figured, why not? A few days passed, and we were already past the midpoint of April. I was in bed, still in my pajamas, the early afternoon light filtering through the curtains. Pepper had sent me the latest report, and I was flipping through the printed pages, head resting against the pillows. $88.829, 870 gross revenue domestic, in 2.875 theaters $37.134, 255 international, but that's because it started later, totaling $125.964, 125 worldwide, already surpassing our analysts' projections, I murmured, reading the numbers aloud. Paranormal Activity had just exploded at the box office too. Paranormal Activity is already the dark horse of the year, and based on our analysis, we could end up closing with more than double that, $250 million in revenue, I continued. And Pepper said to use something like multiply by around 0.4 to know our real profit, as we need to pay theaters, distribution, and marketing. So we've already made around $50 million, I murmured, and we could be looking at more than $100 million. I prefer the bet, less job, I chuckled to myself. Pepper would probably hit me if she heard that, considering my only job every week is to record a song, and love doing it, and discuss one or two things here and there. Just then, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen and smirked. Speak of the devil, I muttered. Hello, Pepper, I wasn't thinking anything bad about you, I added quickly. Pepper didn't respond to that. Jake, we just signed that song with Jennifer Lopez. That'll be next week. Nice, I said. Are you already working? It's 7 a.m. I'm a morning person, Pepper replied casually. I won't tell you how to do your job, since you do it incredibly well, I said. But take care of yourself. I know you work until late at night. We're flooded with money, hire more people and delegate, learn from me, I added with a grin. I even delegate the singing part of the music, too. Really, not even a smile, I said, half joking. There was a pause on the other end before Pepper finally replied. I smiled. You just can't hear it through the phone, I chuckled. I'll take that as a win. So, Pepper, did you receive the resume for the Harper Management Fund? I asked smugly, flipping to a different page. Jake, $61.7 million, Charlie, $28.9 million, Alan, $5.28 million, Judith, $5.28 million, Pepper, $10 million, Evelyn, $23.6 million. Harper Management Fund total, $135 million. And that wasn't even counting the 10% stake in JD Company. Pepper had put $5 million into the fund. The money had already doubled for most participants, thanks to Nvidia stock soaring, except for me, since I also received the performance fee. Yes, your bonus would make even some CEOs envy, she said. But not you, I replied. Because, besides the fund, our company isn't doing bad in cash either, Pepper snorted. Not bad? We have $140 million in cash and investments, and that's not even counting the money that will come in from Paranormal Activity. Great, I muttered. We started with $110 million from the bet, minus the $7.5 million loan, $102.5 million net. That initial $1 million I invested was fully spent setting up the company. Then came the cost of the 4 movies, Paranormal Activity, Brokeback Mountain, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and Lost in Translation, totaling $32 million, and another $10 million to expand our company. And still, we've got more money than when we started, and that's without receiving a single penny from the movies yet, all thanks to the stock market, I added with a grin. I hadn't let the money sit idle in the bank, I invested it in stocks, as cash flow was not a problem to us. You mentioned hiring. There's another round of recruitment today, want to sit in? Pepper asked. Nah, I'm good, I replied. Pepper added, you know only 3 people in your own company know who you are, right? And one of them has no idea you're the owner, Anthony, our CFO. He's the one with the most Spartan contract, even though he's Pepper trusted right hand. Tons of NDA clauses, he's the guy who buys, sells, and moves all the money around. I just say what to buy or sell and he executes at one. Then there's Harvey Spencer, our best lawyer. I think he was from a TV show or something, never watched though. And Susie, our chief of PR. She's even colder than Pepper. She doesn't know I'm the owner, but she does know about the Marshmallow identity. Marshmallow PR team is on pair of super celebrities ones. Hey, there is you too, so it's 4, support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c /MH Jr., up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 97, Las Vegas. Hey, that makes 4, I added with a smirk, shifting slightly in bed, still balancing the stack of papers Pepper had sent. You're impossible, Pepper sighed on the other end. Are you sure you don't want to be interviewed by anyone? We're getting requests from every direction. Yeah, I replied, too tiresome. If someone talks bad about it, just put them on a list. Let the future show the consequences, Pepper consented with a sigh. All right. Talk later, Jake. Bye, Pepper. I sent a message to Anthony. Keep increasing the short position in Enron. This is my biggest bet for 2001, shorting Enron. I read the financials. That crap company is still the same fraud. I set the phone down and stretched before making my way to the kitchen. Charlie was already there, leaning against the counter with a coffee mug in hand. Morning, he said. Morning, I replied, taking a seat at the table and grabbing some breakfast. A few minutes later, Alan walked in, already dressed in slacks and a button-up shirt. Morning, he said, sounding far more awake than usual. Morning, Charlie and I replied in unison. Charlie took another sip of his coffee, then looked over at Alan. So how'd it go at the doctor yesterday? Alan pulled out a chair and sat down. Sit down, he said, sounding unusually serious. I have to tell you something. What? Charlie asked, raising an eyebrow. The doctor wants me to have a procedure, Alan said carefully. What kind of procedure? He said. I'm fine, and it's routine, but I'm really freaked out about it. What procedure? Charlie asked. A colonoscopy, Alan muttered. Oh, Jesus, why does everyone keep bringing this kind of thing up at breakfast? I said, wincing, and pushed my plate away, suddenly not hungry anymore. Oh, geez, Alan, that's no big deal, Charlie said, waving it off. They're just gonna shove a camera up your ass. One okay. In all future references to this procedure, Alan said quickly, can we please use the word glide or slide as opposed to shove? Don't sweat it. Every guy eventually has to get one of those, Charlie continued. It's strictly a fact-finding mission. You've had one? Alan asked. No, you crazy, Charlie scoffed. There's nothing to worry about it, Dad, I added. It's the tiny little camera in your ass. Alan glared at both me and Charlie. Thank you both, he said, completely unamused. Minutes later, damn it, Berta's voice rang out. What? Charlie asked. The sink stopped up again, she said, clearly irritated. She glared at Charlie and said, can you at least pick a woman who knows the difference between the garbage and the drain? He muttered under his breath, no wonder she doesn't care which hole. To Charlie, Alan said, his tone full of disapproval. It is more important for us to know which hole is which, or we are headed for trouble, I added, raising my eyebrows. Jake, Alan now turned to me, exasperated. What, Dad? I'm talking about the garbage and the drain, I said innocently. Charlie opened his mouth to speak again. About a colonoscopy, but he was cut off by Berta shouting as she struggled with a plumber's snake. Come on. Get in there, you sucker. Charlie shook his head and turned to Alan. You need to get your mind off this colonoscopy. Easy for you to say, Alan muttered. Berta, still straining with a plumber's snake, grunted, it just won't go in. One trying to shift the conversation, I said, oh. Monica and the rest are getting to Vegas today. I turned to Charlie with a grin. Let's go to Vegas. Good idea, Charlie said immediately. No, Alan snapped. We are not going to Vegas. Come on, it's the perfect solution, Charlie chimed in. Jake wants to go, and you're all puckered up over this colonoscopy thing. Besides, we can let Jake stay with him, and go, you know, Charlie added with a mischievous grin. Thank you, Uncle Charlie, I said dryly. Fortunately, I found myself more responsible uncles and aunts. Well, more than Uncle Charlie, at least I don't know, Alan said, conflicted. Berta's voice rang out again as she continued wrestling with the plumber's snake. Perfect, now I can't get it out, Alan sighed. You know what? Why not, at night? Charlie pulled out his phone and started dialing. Okay, we're gonna need 3 rooms. One for Alan Harper, one for Jake Harper, and one for Charlie Harper and a cocktail waitress to be named later. No, I don't want connecting rooms. Weren't you listening? In fact, put mine on a different floor. Put mine on a different one too, I added. I glanced at the clock. It's 11 p.m. We're late. We're going to get there in the middle of the night. That's because you had lessons, Charlie said. I gave him a deadpan look. That was until 6 p.m. You napped until now. Well, I'll drive, Charlie replied defensively. Anyway, why's your dad taking so long? Charlie asked, glancing around. I shrugged. Charlie went to check. A few minutes later, he returned, and while we waited, we ended up playing a few hands of blackjack. Eventually, Alan appeared, and I stared at him, stunned. What the hell are you wearing, Dad? Alan stood there, proudly sporting an old-fashioned disco outfit, shiny, loud, and very much from another era too. Viva Las Vegas, Alan declared with enthusiasm. Oh, Alan, Charlie muttered, rubbing his temples. What? Alan asked. We're going in a Mercedes, not a time machine, Charlie replied, exasperated. One. Should I change? Alan offered. You should, but after all these years, I doubt you will, Charlie said with a sigh. 3. I leaned closer to Charlie and murmured, thank God I'll stay with him. You take care of Dad. 3. Charlie was behind the wheel, focused on the road, while Alan sat in the passenger seat beside him. They chatted sporadically as the dark highway unrolled in front of us, headlights slicing through the night. I was in the backseat, finally dozing off, when my phone buzzed against my thigh. I groaned, half asleep. 2 a.m.? Who the hell calls at this hour? I murmured, blinking at the screen. It was Aunt Rachel. I swiped to answer. Ranch, her voice came through, unmistakably drunk. Jackie, I'm getting married. 3. In the background, I heard a loud woohoo, clearly Ross 1 watt, I said, now fully awake, sitting upright. 1. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 98, Las Vegas II. I looked at Uncle Charlie, eyes wide with disbelief. Did you hear it? I asked. Charlie, still focused on the road, glanced back at me through the rearview mirror. Yeah, I heard it. I escaped that one, huh? I rolled my eyes. Oh well, nothing much to do, I muttered, then leaned back and went right back to sleep. But barely a minute later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message. Chandler, Rachel and Ross got married in Vegas. Just thought you should know. For the fun, the next morning, I headed down to the hotel's breakfast area. I already knew which hotel Monica and the rest were staying at. Joey had told me the name ahead of time, and we booked the same one. As I entered the breakfast room, I scanned the tables. And there they were, Monica, Chandler, and Joey, seated near the windows and mid-laughter over something Joey had just said. They hadn't spotted me yet. With a grin, I walked up quietly from behind. You guys started breakfast without me. Monica jumped slightly, Chandler flinched, and Joey nearly dropped his fork. Jake, Monica gasped. You scared the crap out of me. Hey, kid, Joey said, reaching out for a quick fist bump. Long time no see, look who decided to show up, Chandler added. I shook Chandler's hand and gave Monica a hug before pulling out a chair and joining them at the table. So, I said as I settled in, where's Dr. and Mrs. Geller? You already know, Joey asked, surprised. Yeah, I said with a smirk. Chandler messaged me, and Ratch called me drunk, screaming that she got married. They laughed a little at that, and then Phoebe appeared at the edge of the table, looking cheerful as always. I stood up and gave her a warm hug. Where is the waitress? I'm starving, Joey groaned, looking around. It's a buffet, man, Chandler replied dryly. Joey blinked, then stood up. Chandler and I exchanged amused glances and followed him toward the food. Listen, I gotta talk to you, Chandler said as we grabbed plates. Sure. What's up? Joey asked, piling scrambled eggs onto his plate. Monica and I almost got married last night, Chandler admitted. Joey froze. Oh my God. That's huge. He pulled Chandler into a quick hug. Wait a minute, how come I wasn't invited? And who is gonna be your best man? Don't say Ross. Do not say Ross. Look, I just don't think Monica and I are ready to get married yet. I love her, but seeing Ross and Rachel come out of that chapel, it was like a wake-up call. Things are moving too fast. And how do I tell her that without crushing her? Oh. Tell her she's not marriage material, Joey said matter-of-factly. To what? Girls say it to me all the time. And believe me, if she's anything like me, she'll just be relieved. Joey returned to the table. I raised a brow as I watched him sit down and take a big bite of his eggs. You know that it's your mistake, right? Asking Joey for this kind of advice, Chandler sighed. Yeah, I figured that out somewhere between she's not marriage material and girls say it to me all the time. Just tell her that you don't need to hurry. And why are you two in such a rush to get married? It's not like the world's ending this year, I said, shaking my head. We were just talking about bacon, Monica said quickly as Chandler and I walked in. Phoebe raised an eyebrow. No, we were talking about tennis. Tennis is more believable. Just then, Ross and Rachel entered. Hey, Ross greeted cheerfully. Hey, the girls echoed. Hey, Chandler added with a nervous smile. Rachel's eyes widened slightly when she saw me. Jake, what are you doing here? She asked as she rushed over and gave me a warm hug. I smiled and returned it. Surprise visit, I said. Then I turned to Ross. Hey, men, I said, offering a handshake. We both sat down as Rachel poured coffee for the two of us. The room settled into an awkward silence. Ross and Rachel were acting like nothing had happened. Rachel glanced at me again with a curious smile. So Jake, what are you doing in Vegas? I took a sip of the coffee she had just poured me and replied casually, I came for the marriage, or post-marriage. In this case, Chandler cleared his throat. Jake got here a little late, but we watched the wedding, Rachel gasped. Who got married? Chandler said, you two did, looking to Rachel and Ross. Ross, just as startled, blinked. What? Hello. We didn't get married, Rachel shook her head quickly. No, we didn't get married. That's ridiculous. They turned to look at each other, and then their eyes widened, almost in sync. Ross stammered, we, I remember being in a chapel. Rachel's jaw dropped. Oh my God, you even called me ranch, I said with a smirk. Ross, I thought the expression third time's the charm was for dating, not marriage. Everyone laughed, even Rachel, though she buried her face in her hands. Ross, however, just glared at me. Monica looked between them, noticeably trying to process everything. What are you guys gonna do? Rachel let out a long sigh. Well, I guess we just find a divorce lawyer. She turned to look at Ross too. Chandler raised his hand slightly. Well, I think Ross already has one. Now, this one's free, right? Because you paid for the first two, so the third one's free. One now. Ross glared at Chandler trying to shift the focus. Monica turned to me. So, how did you even get here, Jake? It was difficult, Monica, I said dramatically, then held up 4 fingers. I told Uncle Charlie, let's go to Vegas. I paused for effect, then added, yeah, needed 4 words. Everyone laughed. Rachel shook her head with a playful sigh. Your uncle is still irresponsible, not like getting married while drunk is a big sign of responsibility, Chandler murmured under his breath. Rachel looked at him, narrowing her eyes slightly. Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mh up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 99, Las Vegas III. I looked around the room, raising an eyebrow. So, what's the plan now? Monica replied, we were planning to stay here one more day, and visit you in LA, but, you're already here. Well, I have a proposal for you all, I said, leaning forward a bit. You can visit LA at the end of May, when the premiere of Joey's movie will happen. Wow, how do you know the date? Joey asked, looking surprised. I'm one of the investors in the movie, I said with a small shrug. So, did you get Joey the role? Chandler asked. Not really, I replied. He got it on his own merit. I didn't say anything. The most I did was tell Joey about the role. Joey beamed, proud. Man, that means even more. I actually earned it, yes, and we're all very proud of you, Phoebe said, patting his shoulder. Thanks, Phoebes, Joey said, grinning. Chandler finally raised his coffee. Here's to Joey Tribbiani, actor and star. Everyone did the same, raising their cups and congratulating Joey with smiles and cheers. Did you watch the movie? Joey asked, looking around the table. No, I saved it for the premiere, I replied. Pepper watched it, though. And she was impressed, said it might be another dark horse. She even decided to launch it in way more theaters than Paranormal Activity originally started with. Rachel tilted her head. Wait, what was the proposal you were going to make? Right, I said, snapping my fingers. I got some tickets for shows, Cirque du Soleil, Mr. Blue Man Group, and David Copperfield. 10 tickets each, one Pepper got for free. All hail Pepper 5. Whoa, Joey said. That's a lot of shows, Well, we're in Vegas, I responded. Might as well enjoy it properly. We can split into groups or try to hit everything over the next 2 days, so we ended up watching them together, including Alan, Charlie, and some girl Charlie had just met in Vegas. Typical. Later, after saying our goodbyes, Charlie got behind the wheel, and we drove back to Malibu. Back at Charlie's house, Laura was sitting on my lap, her arms loosely around my neck. Next time, you need to call me too, she said, biting my shoulder. She was a little envious of the 3 shows I got to see. The trio showed up, Carly, Sam, and Freddie, and they joined us out on the deck as the sun began to set. Shortly, Cher and Regina appeared too. The 7 of us were now sitting together on the deck, the ocean breeze rolling in softly. I can't believe you didn't call us to go to Vegas, said Regina, giving me a playful glare. I have a better one, I said with a wink. What is it? Cher asked, leaning in with curiosity. Laura also looked at me, intrigued. It's about my music recording, I said. But this time, I added, looking around, I need you all to behave. Especially you two, I pointed at Cher and Regina. I only flirted with one of the singers, Cher said quickly. Regina flirted with 2, she added. But he was cute, Regina said defensively. Before the 2 could start gossiping about it, I raised a hand. Okay, it's not about that. This time, the singer is actually pretty famous, I added, giving them a look that only made them more curious. Who? Asked Laura, her eyes locked on mine. Everyone was now paying close attention, waiting for the reveal. Jennifer Lopez, I said simply. 1J, Lo, screamed Cher and Regina at the same time. Laura had both hands wrapped around my arm, eyes gleaming with excitement. Carly looked amazed. Even Sam was animated. What's so special about Jennifer Lopez anyway? Freddie asked. Everyone turned to look at him. Cher and Regina stared at him with a murderous gaze. Idiot. Sam kicked him under the table. I cleared my throat. Honestly, I'd prefer if you all acted a bit more like Freddie. Just don't go all fangirl with her, okay? I said, shooting a glance at Cher and Regina, for they both gave me identical looks of mock innocence. No promises, Regina said with a sly smile. We'll try, Cher added, already failing to contain her grin. Everyone chuckled. The group chatted for a little while longer, until Freddie broke the rhythm. So, no one's gonna talk about the tests we have this week? He asked. You are such a nerd, Freddie, Sam said, rolling her eyes. Well, I'm not the one at risk of repeating the year, he snapped back. Or maybe that's not a bad thing. I wouldn't have to put up with you in class anymore, Freddie finished. Shut up, you idiot, Sam shot back immediately. Carly sat quietly, a bit conflicted. I'm okay being a B student, Cher said with a shrug, unbothered. Laura nodded in agreement beside her. Maybe I need a little help, Regina admitted with a sigh. Wait, are there tests this week? I asked, blinking. Everyone looked at me. Now in June are our main testing periods, Carly said, finally breaking her silence. I just shrugged. You're the one nerd that irritates me the most, Sam snapped, visibly annoyed. You sleep in class more than I do, I gasped, pointing at her dramatically. Lies, fake news, one you totally do, Carly said deadpan. I even have to wake you up sometimes just to tell you class is over. I didn't know you were that kind of person, Laura uttered, a little surprised. I leaned closer and whispered, that's a little your fault. You keep texting me until late at night. Laura playfully bumped her shoulder against mine, grinning. And yet he got all A+, Sam shot 2 what, said Laura, Regina, and Cher in unison. Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mh-junior, up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 100, Study. The shock from the last statement still lingered in the air. You got all A+, Laura repeated, staring at me with a blend of disbelief and amusement. How did you two not know? I asked, looking at Cher and Regina. You're the gossip queens, they both gasped, offended. We are queen bees, Regina corrected, pointing a finger at me. And grades are definitely not something we gossip about. Don't you feel shame calling yourself a queen bee? I asked, looking directly at her. You are the one person who can't talk about shame, she fired back without missing a beat. Hey, I said indignantly as I noticed everyone around nodding in agreement with her. Cher narrowed her eyes. You fall asleep in class, you barely study, and yet, A+? Did you cheat? I don't need to, I said, unfazed. Let's put it to the test, Regina said, eyes gleaming. Pick your books, really? Who are you and what did you do with Regina? I replied, raising an eyebrow. Still, I got up and grabbed my books. Are we really studying? I said, looking around in disbelief. What a weird day. Everyone slowly followed suit, grabbing notebooks and textbooks from their bags or shelves around the room. The deck that had been filled with teasing and laughter now buzzed with a rustle of pages and the occasional groan. Okay, 10 questions each, Regina said, already flipping through a math book. Is this happening? Sam groaned. And yet, everyone started solving the questions, pencils scratching paper. Minutes later, I leaned back and said, done, yeah, 9th grade math, I thought. Not worth mentioning. They all looked at me. Carly and Freddie were calm, they'd seen this before. Since some classes include in-class group exercises, they already knew I understood the material one, but the other three, Laura, Cher, and Regina, stared at me with genuine surprise on their faces. Let me see it, Cher said, holding out her hand. I handed her the paper. Meanwhile, Laura pointed to one of her questions. How do you solve this one? I leaned over and began walking her through it step by step. By the end, Laura's eyes lit up and she gave a small smile, a clear expression of realization. Cher, seeing everything was correct, the book has the answers, raised her eyebrows at me. Now you're a genius too, one now, I said with a grin. I've been intelligent since day one, Cher rolled her eyes, and Laura just started to pinch my arm, amused. Okay, I'll stop being cocky, I laughed, gently pulling my arm away. Too late, Sam said. The ego is already airborne. We kept studying for a little longer. Carly, Freddie, and Laura were focused, taking notes seriously. Cher was a little distracted but trying. Regina was struggling, flipping through pages and muttering to herself. Meanwhile, Sam looked like one of those defeated cartoon characters, slumped in her chair, arms hanging lifelessly, eyes glazed over as if she'd already given up on life itself. I had to stifle a laugh just watching her. At that moment, Uncle Charlie walked in, holding a beer in one hand, looking around at the scene with mild astonishment. Hey, Charlie greeted. Hi, Uncle Charlie, I said first. Everyone else quickly chimed in with their own greetings. Are you using my deck to study? Charlie asked, a little indignantly, looking at all the open books and scattered papers. What is wrong with you people? He added, shaking his head in disbelief. I just shrugged. Obviously, it wasn't my idea. $1,000 if you guess who had the idea, I added, smirking. Charlie pointed immediately at Freddie without hesitation. Him, everyone burst out laughing. I made a buzzer sound. Wrong. It was Regina, I said, pointing right at her. Charlie gave me a skeptical look. Are you sure it was her? I wouldn't believe it either if someone just told me, I admitted. A second later, a small paper ball hit me square on the head. I turned to see Regina sticking her tongue out at me. Just then, a beautiful woman stepped onto the deck, calling out, Charlie, . She walked over, taking Uncle Charlie's arm and smiling warmly at all of us. Melissa, this is my nephew and his friends, Charlie said, introducing us. We all waved and greeted her with a chorus of hi. Melissa tilted her head, amused. They're studying? On a Friday, Charlie, straightening up like he was the proudest role model in the world, replied, I encourage them. For their future, Melissa cooed, charmed. Charlie grinned, gave us a quick wink behind her back, and led her away from the deck. I shook my head, amused. When I noticed everyone staring at me, I blinked. What? I asked. It comes from the family, huh? Cher teased too. They have zero shame, Regina added, laughing. A few days later, the tests happened, and now, everyone had received their results. FUU, it actually helped me with my grades, Sam admitted, referring to the day we studied together. I went to sit next to Laura. She turned to me with a smile. Got all A+, I simply nodded. Laura smiled wider and nudged my shoulder lightly. Show off. Around us, the others were comparing their grades, some celebrating, others groaning dramatically. At least no one flunked, Carly said, trying to stay positive. Regina clapped her hands to get our attention. Okay, but can we talk about what really matters now, she said, clearly referring to the upcoming music recording. Cher immediately chimed in, her eyes lighting up. I brought J.Lo's album, the Wedding Planner DVD, and a t-shirt to get autographed, Cher and Regina exchanged a playful look and then clapped their hands together in a silly, exaggerated high-five celebration. But undeniably, both the movie and the album, released back in January, had been successes, I thought. Auxiliary dated. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh junior, up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.